What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode of A+ Morphinominal, your weekly stop for your Power Rangers, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider news and reviews right here on our YouTube page. It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez. We are, in fact, back once again with a brand new episode as we are set to go ahead and dive into not only a ton of news this week, but also a huge review that we certainly have lined up for you guys. As earlier on this afternoon, or this morning I should say, we wind up finally getting ourselves our Power Rangers Beast Morphers Dino Crossover. That's right, guys. Episode number 13 dropped, Grid Connection. We wind up getting the return of Austin St. John and all of his amazing glory, and we are certainly here to go ahead and talk about it with you guys today. So we're going to be getting into Beast Morphers. We're going to be getting into some further Jonathan Entwistle taking over as the new Power Ranger architect. We even got some reviews for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 55. And of course, your guys' live viewer questions and a ton more. And I might have a special guest certainly stopping by today to certainly help me out, guys. But we'll certainly see how that turns out. But thank you very much for everybody joining me this weekend. I hope you guys had a fantastic kickoff to your Saturday. I really do hope that this Beast Morphers crossover that we wind up getting really satisfied each and every one of you. I know they can't satisfy everybody, but I certainly hope what we've gotten so far from Beast Morphers and this Dino crossover certainly impressed some of you. But of course, remember, guys, as we go through this day, these are just my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, I definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So feel free to go ahead and let your thoughts be known in regards to some of our reviews, some of the news articles in the live chat or the comment section box below if you're actually joining us after the live stream. And towards the end of this episode, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a section for live viewer questions. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a live viewer question that you absolutely want to make sure that it gets answered on air, certainly go ahead and submit your question over to us at aplusmorphinominal at gmail.com. Feel free to send them throughout the week at any point during this particular show, and we'll definitely go ahead and get to it towards the end of this episode. Again, aplusmorphinominal at gmail.com to go ahead and submit your questions. And then afterwards, we'll definitely hop in and out of the comments section for you guys also to have some further discussion. We just may not be able to get to everybody, but we certainly will if you submit your live viewer question. So thank you very much for that, guys. Let's see who's in the house with us today. See if we have any familiar faces, some fresh faces up in here. We got Noah Cummings certainly coming through. Appreciate you stopping by today, Noah. Power Rangers in your area. What's up, Alex? Certainly good to see you in here. Edward Sanchez Productions coming through. Anita certainly coming through. Johnny Morero's in the house. What's up, Johnny? Get him a body bag. Yeah. Who else we got in here? We got Not Ultra certainly coming through also. So thank you very much. And of course, Blackwing. What's up, Blackwing? Good to see you in here also, guys. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have a great discussion, great topics for you guys. And the first one that we're definitely going to be talking about today will, in fact, be our Beast Morphers review, season 2, episode number 13, titled Grid Crossover, Grid Connection. This is, in fact, our Dino crossover that we've been waiting for so long. Before we get into the review, though, ladies and gentlemen, two things that I want to say off the top. First off, I would love to give a special thanks to Chip Lynn along with Austin St. John for putting this together, for being able to even make this sort of agreement and sort of just collaboration actually happen. You know, it's funny to me going back to something like 2014 when Austin St. John returned and he started going on his conventions, right? Back in action is what they called it for Austin St. John. And it's incredible for me that it's been 6 years since that journey, since Austin St. John returned and actually made his presence on screen here in this episode this week. So, you know, we never knew if we were going to get the opportunity to see Austin St. John back at all. So kudos to Chip Lynn for putting together just this massive crossover event, for reaching out to an old friend that he certainly felt comfortable with and really just asking him the question if he certainly wanted to return. So I'm glad that Austin certainly took that opportunity to do so. I feel like you can definitely feel his presence just in this crossover event, and really just for me at least what he personally truly means to Power Rangers as a whole in regards to this franchise. I think it was super important at some point in time to certainly bring him back, and I'm really glad that him and Chip Lynn certainly worked together to put together this collaboration, because whether you're a fan of MMPR or, you know, nostalgia or whatever the case may be, I think a character like Jason certainly is important to this lore, and the fact that they managed to get him back really thrilled that they were thinking about the fans when they certainly did this and managed to go ahead and pull it off. So special kudos goes out to Chip Lynn and Austin St. John for making this happen. My second announcement, ladies and gentlemen, is I am actually not doing this review alone today. That's right. You've seen him once. You've seen him quite a few times on A+ Morphinominal as far as our YouTube channel goes. Stewart Branscombe has been doing a great job with his Kamen Rider Saber reviews. Regardless of how some people may feel about the series, Stewart knocks his reviews out the park each and every week, guys. So if you're not paying attention, certainly go ahead and do so. And Stewart actually did join us for a episode review of Beast Morphers a couple of weeks back. So ladies and gentlemen, Stewart Branscombe. What's going on, Stewart? How's it going, man? Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you there. Can you unmute it?
Yeah,
there you go.
My bad. I was saying, yeah, going really good. I'm super excited to finally talk about this crossover with someone because, oh my gosh, it was a fun ride for me. So I'm excited to get my rant out of the way.
I'm glad that you thank you again for your patience, man, because last time you were on here you said that same thing, the idea that you've been sitting on this for months to talk to somebody and haven't been able to do so. So I'm glad that to have you here once again as we continue our journey through this I guess this Dino Crossover event that we wind up having here, man. So thank you very much for joining us, Stewart. First off, man, overall, let me just say about this episode. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I truly did. I didn't think I was going to have as much fun with it. For me, this is probably one of the better crossover events that I've seen for Neo Saban, and during that Neo Saban era, and maybe one of the better crossover events that I personally have seen in quite some time. I really enjoyed the addition of much needed drama to this season. To this episode, there was really no duo comedy skit to kind of take away our attention from the main purpose of this storyline this week. And I had a ton of fun with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely have my nitpicks here and there, but nothing that really took me away from fully enjoying this episode. Honestly, I thought Devin did a great job in here and allowing him to have really the more spotlight focus of this episode, along with his sort of team up and collaboration with Jason in here, also getting an opportunity for Jason to certainly shine. I thought for the most part, the build-up worked pretty well leading up to this episode, and I felt like the payoff was certainly there. But those are just my brief thoughts real quick before we dive deep into it. But what were your brief thoughts overall, Stuart? How'd you feel about it?
Very similar in the sense of, even though I really did enjoy it, there are definitely some nitpicks I have here and there, and it's all kind of just based on things that I feel like could have been managed slightly better. And I'm not sure what it all comes down to, because for all I know, maybe they just didn't have the time to plan it as much as maybe they did with other crossovers. I mean, just hearing the behind the scenes stuff with trying to get Austin St. John to return, wasn't exactly the easiest thing. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I have a few nitpicks, a few complaints here and there, but it's all kind of like, I also didn't let it ruin the episode for me, because I also kind of understand why those limits were there, essentially.
No, I definitely agree. And I hadn't really heard too much about the limits that came for this episode, at least when it comes to Austin St. John. So maybe it's a good thing that I certainly thanked him and Chip Lynn for even putting this together. I mean, I really had no idea what the behind the scenes kind of stuff was, if it was difficult or if it was a fantastic time. I mean, some of the shots and scenes that we've seen just from the behind the scenes footage, looks like some of them certainly had a great time. So regardless, it feels like we're definitely at least thankful that Austin St. John certainly at least returned as the character. But let's talk about this episode, man, because if there is one thing that I feel like, and I talked about this last week, and I'll even talk about it a little bit further, one of the things that I wish had been changed a little bit was still last week's episode, Making Bad. I honestly feel like, I know people tried to tell me it wasn't a clip show, that it was a focus of the villains, and I get it. I get the focus of the villains, but I do feel as though there was a lot of time that was wasted in the previous episode that I think probably could have even helped add to this episode a little bit more. Maybe a further focus on just the villains, less clips previous week, to see what their overall plan was going to be heading into this week's episode. I mean, we wind up getting a brief clip in here of finally seeing what Keeper's secret was, right? That Evox wind up pulling from him. But I honestly thought they would have gotten a little bit more from him. Like, I really would have loved to have seen that interrogation maybe on the Making Bad episode, maybe even showing our villains going over to the Dino Charge dimension in that particular episode, right? To kind of set it up. But again, there is an impact, though, I feel like, when you go into this episode and see the Dino Charge characters immediately in trouble and needing the assistance of the Rangers to really add that dose of action and just pace to the episode. So it definitely has its hits or misses, but I definitely feel like Making Bad was way underutilized in regards to helping build to this particular episode, though. Overall, what do you think, though, as far as like the build up to this episode? Do you think most of the episodes handled themselves pretty well, or would you have changed anything?
The major thing I would have changed personally is I actually did like the concept for Making Bad. I actually thought it was an all right episode, mostly because I've just been getting tired of all the clip show episodes being exactly the same thing, where it's a holiday and they just happen to reminisce on the past, and all that kind of stuff. But I do think if this one was the first part of the crossover, if they made Making Bad the first part, it would have been a kind of cool way to, at least give you hints on what's to come. And then it would have been cool to go to the Dino Charge crossover and then the Dino Charge MMPR crossover immediately after that. But yeah, I do think it had a weird momentum because it was in the middle, rather than, having the suspense like go up and up and up and then, really paying off at the end. It kind of ended up just being downhill, then a little downhill, uphill, then downhill, and then a little bit back uphill again.
And I would agree with you in that, because the one thing that I said after last week was I did feel like my momentum going into the Dino crossover was just a little bit halted. I mean, it definitely wasn't going to zap my enthusiasm for it, but I felt like they had done such a good job of a build up into it that the previous week's episode felt a little out of place, if you will. Maybe if it was placed at a different spot in the season, maybe it would have worked a little bit better for me. So I'm glad that it certainly worked for you. And there were elements of it that worked for me as well, but I felt like it could have been handled maybe a little bit differently leading into the Dino crossover. Because when we wind up getting into this episode, guys, Keeper has in fact returned. He winds up coming in his cool ass spaceship. He's got a message from the future, if you will, or at least from one of his visions that he winds up having, and winds up telling the team that he winds up seeing in one of his visions a huge battle with Power Rangers. It almost reminds me of Legendary War, like, oh, we're going back to this legendary battle moment. Okay. And we wind up seeing the rest of the Rangers coming together to hear exactly what Keeper certainly has to say. But there is one person on this team that certainly has his doubts, and that is in fact Devin, who we see is getting ready for another video game tournament, or at least having to certainly get some practice in. I have to say, Stewart, seeing Keeper come back and start talking a little bit about the morphing grid in here, talking about the idea that he's been able to see a vision, that sometimes he can see into the future of things that are going. When Devin immediately sort of dismisses it, a part of me was kind of like, that feels a little bit out of character. But to be honest with you, it doesn't really feel that out of character for me, for Devin, especially when it comes to something like his video games. I feel like when it comes to Devin and his video games, nothing can really push this guy away from doing one of his favorite pastimes that he's so incredibly good at. So unless it's something that's legitimate, that he can touch and feel and see with his own eyes, I feel like they've been pretty consistent with the Devin character, that unless it's really vital and really, like, unless he can actually see it, nothing is going to keep this guy away from his video games and his love for video games. But it is pretty much I'll see it when I believe it kind of attitude, that even though he has been a Power Ranger and he has seen quite a ton of crazy things in his career, he's actually seen it. You know what I mean? Because even Keeper's like, oh, you don't trust the morphing grid. And even I was like, Keeper, he didn't say that. He did not say he didn't believe. He understands the morphing grid, but that's because he can actually see it and physically touch it, right? The idea of like visions and seeing the future, I get the idea of Devin certainly not paying full attention to it. And I thought it did a great job for just his story this season to kick off the episode this way. What did you think about that, though? Because I thought I heard some people complaining about it. Did you feel like that was up Devin's like consistent with his personality, or did you think it was just a little bit all over the place and didn't make any sense?
At first, yeah, I would say that I thought that was a little weird the way he just completely ignored Keeper.
Yeah.
But then, it was like one of those things where thinking about it, the Morphin Grid kind of has two aspects to it, the science aspect and then the mystical aspect of it.
Right.
Devin's never really experienced the mystical aspect of the Morphin Grid, the idea of the Morphin Grid actually being sentient, being able to communicate with people, give them visions like it does with Keeper and like it did with what's his face from Megaforce, the Red Ranger. So it totally makes sense that Troy, yeah, that was it. Yeah. So it totally makes sense that Devin doesn't know about that whole aspect of the Morphin Grid. So when he hears it from Keeper, and Keeper's someone who he doesn't even know personally, I'm assuming because Devin never was a cadet at Grid Battle Force, he probably never took the Ranger history class, that kind of stuff. So it did make sense to me how it just all seemed like some crazy old man from another dimension, just spouting some random stuff.
Okay, Grandpa, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it kind of came out to him, I think. So it made sense to me of why he didn't take it as seriously as the other Rangers who actually, did start at Grid Battle Force from the beginning. They actually did take their Ranger history class. So they actually knew more about kind of the mystical aspect of the Morphin Grid, whereas Devin kind of knows only the science facts of the Morphin Grid. Anyways, that's just my headcanon, so that's why it didn't bother me. So
yeah, I mean, because
maybe I'm looking too deep into it.
No, I don't think you are, because even Zoe says, Zoe says, I don't know, Devin, I've read a ton of stuff about Power Ranger history, and the Morphin Grid can do some amazing things. So yeah, it definitely shows that somebody's maybe paying attention in PR history class outside of Devin. But I really enjoyed his storyline this week, man. One of the things going into the Dino crossover I was hoping for was some legit interactions between him and Jason. While we didn't necessarily get the sit down conversation between two leaders, if you will, I feel like the presence of Jason, seeing what the Morphin Grid is certainly capable of, has really given Devin a fantastic lesson, especially when it comes to leadership of, as a Power Ranger, as the leader of the Power Rangers, really trusting in the Morphin Grid more than what he did by the end of this particular episode. And I thought it was really handled well. I mean, granted, karma does come back for the guy, because he literally does get struck by a meteor, and then getting the opportunity to firsthand see what the Morphin Grid is capable of, right? Utilizing the part of the meteorite to go ahead and step inside of the Morphin Grid. Real quick, honorable mention goes out to the set design in here also for the tower and things like that, getting to see some new locations, if you will, underneath the Morphin X towers. I thought that was pretty cool. But I love seeing just Devin standing in front of the Morphin Grid, having to reach out to everybody, seeing the meteorite literally change into a power coin. I do want to throw this out there to you, Stewart. In this process of Devin coming to believe a little bit more in the Morphin Grid, do you think, I don't want to say, do you think the Morphin Grid sent him that meteorite? I mean, it definitely is all together. Do you think the meteorite, I don't know how to express this question to you, Stuart. I'm trying to figure it out in my head. But when I watched it, for me, it was kind of incredible, because for me, it almost gave me faith even more in the Morphin Grid. The idea that it literally sends Devin the meteorite or the asteroid, whatever the case may be. It has the energy that he certainly needs. The Morphin Grid helps morph this into a power coin. Do you think that was all set in motion by the Morphin Grid, or do you think that's just all coincidence by everything that happened in here?
I think honestly, it's almost safe to say it's kind of set in motion from the Morphin Grid, because weirdly enough, this wouldn't be the first time we've heard of powerful, oh, how should I put it? Like actual powers that connect to the morphing grade coming from asteroids, because we got that in literally both Dino Charge and Dino Thunder. The idea of that's how they both got their powers from, were from the asteroids that wiped out the dinosaurs. So to me, that idea actually feels very like in line with all the other dino themed Power Rangers that we've gotten in the past. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if something like that plays out in Dino Fury as well.
Oh, that's a good point. I do like that idea. Yeah, part of me was thinking like, I wonder if this is just another asteroid from the Dino Charge world that maybe one of the, I kept for some reason in the back of my head, I've been reading too many Boom Studios comic books. A part of me was like, I wonder if one of the emissaries might have just sent this asteroid their way to certainly help them get out of this pickle and predicament that they're certainly in. You know, the one thing that I have learned from this episode, and I think something that Devin has learned also, is that the morphing grid definitely works in mysterious ways. Like there are elements of this episode kind of turning the morphing grid almost into the Force, if you will, right? Like something that binds us all together that you can't see, but you can feel. It definitely had sort of Force element vibes in this episode. Did you get that? Did you get that feeling too?
Yeah, but I mean, I'll also say that I've kind of had that feeling with the morphing grid, like in general with Power Rangers for a long time.
Yeah, most definitely. So really great stuff here in regards to the stuff for Devin, him realizing that his team is in trouble, having to go ahead and rescue out the SOS. Special honorable mention goes out also to the amazing musical score and just some of the things that we wind up getting in this episode. It really helped uplift a ton of my spirits going throughout this entire episode, honestly. But yeah, Devin definitely stood out for me this week. And of course, Austin St. John returns as Jason, coming through the portal when the SOS certainly goes out with his superhero landing of his own, ready for business. It was so great to see him, honestly. And you know what? Kudos to the writing team for giving Austin some just amazing lines, okay? I thought he had some of the most badass lines in here. Let me see if I can find some of them. Once he comes through and he starts talking to Devin, the idea that let's show them something they haven't seen before, the strength of Grid Battle Force combined with the legendary Dino power. I thought that was such a great line, certainly gave me chills. Listen, I always want more Austin St. John. Give me more Jason whenever you get that opportunity. Like, I honestly would have loved to have seen more lines from him, but were you happy with the amount of Jason that we wind up getting in here?
Yeah, definitely. I thought, yes, I would have definitely loved to have had him in a previous episode also, like with the Dino Charge crossover. But kind of like I was mentioning earlier, I totally understand for honestly kind of understandable reasons, Austin St. John being very hesitant about coming back. So he pretty much only really wanted to sign on for one episode, which Chip Lynn, good on him. He worked really hard to make sure that could happen, to make sure everything he did to try to convince Austin St. John to come back, whatever, like he said specifically, like hasn't been released, but it's definitely really helped. And I think the main thing that helped was Austin St. John knowing Saban wasn't going to be there, at least according to him in an interview that I saw with him. He said like the main thing was that Chip Lynn brought up to him was, oh yeah, no, Saban's not there anymore. It's owned by Hasbro. I promise you'll have a good time if you show up. And he was kind of like thinking, well, I don't have like any other gigs going on, so sure, why not? And yeah, it definitely looked like, from his performance that he was having a good time with the cast and crew. And yeah, something I saw in the comment section, I'm not sure if I can find it now, but it was a comment I actually do kind of disagree with. Here it is. So it was from Power Rangers in Your Area saying that he really overacted in this episode. I don't think he did, personally. I thought he did. He definitely had like the campiness, embraced the really fun, over the top aspects from the 90s when he needed to. But I feel like when he first showed up, his acting definitely felt, like he was going for an epic kind of voice, but it didn't seem like he was going too all out with it. Not the same way I feel like Jason David Frank does every time he comes back.
Like every line,
even if it's like, all right, guys, we got to go get some pizza right now, but we got to know know.
I'm so hungry.
Who wants the veggie pizza and who wants the meat lovers pizza? You know, that kind of a thing. I feel like, yeah, Tommy's overreacting his way here, whereas Austin St. John, I feel like was exactly where it needed to be in this episode. You know, he was talking, you know, tough, but he was doing it because it was a serious moment. It's like, okay, you know, we got this all powerful enemy. We need to show him something he's never seen before. So yeah. And like you said too, I also think most of the lines that he was given in this whole episode, I think, yeah, the writers gave him like the perfect lines to really to just really like have him embrace being back into the series. I don't know.
I agree. They definitely gave him the tough lines for sure. And I don't mean tough lines as like hard to deliver, but like you're coming back. You're the OG leader of Power Rangers, right? Like when I see Austin St. John in here, he just comes across with the leader vibes, the like general vibes, like I'm going to lead you into this war type of vibes. And that's the type of person I want to get behind. Again, no disrespect to JDF. I mean, I certainly love when JDF certainly comes on board and does crossover events. I don't know if it's maybe the exhaustion of seeing JDF and wanting to see somebody new, but you can clearly see the difference between those two and just their presence when they certainly are on screen. And, you know, granted, JDF has certainly had his big moments in crossover events. I'm definitely not taking anything away from him. But when you see Austin St. John in this particular role, man, he just screams authority and almost like screams your attention when he's actually on screen, right? Like when I see JDF doesn't come across as that overall like definitive leader. He feels like, yeah, I can lead a group of people, but I'm still the cool ranger. Like I'm still the cool guy, right? Austin's never really been the cool guy. He's been that leadership type of guy that's going to tell you how it is and put his best foot forward and get the job done. And I feel like that's just as blue collar of Jason as it gets. And the fact that they gave him some of those great lines I thought was great. The dialogue, I thought there were great levels of drama in this episode, concern, whether it be from Devin, whether it be from Jason and the rest of the crew. So yeah, I really loved everything that Jason brought to this because I don't think he overacted at all. I honestly feel like he was just really true to his character, and a character that has aged, has seen a ton of crap stuff in his life for sure. I love the shot of him throwing his power coin up and then grabbing it. I thought that was a really cool shot. Saying like that's not an army. Like this is an army, and winds up getting this is an army. That was really cool. Even seeing him say it's morphin time again, like just that grizzled vet, like just things like that just really make me appreciate him. And of course, one of the best lines in here comes to us from Jason at the very end. Not only do we get that Rangers forever sort of thing, but he also hits us with the today, tomorrow, or decades from now, there will always be Rangers like you to stand up for what is right. What a great line for Jason to be the one to certainly deliver for us, honestly. And I'm not gonna lie, Stewart, this episode did make me shed some tears. I honestly didn't think that it was going to, but that last line, especially the fist from Jason, from that point on, man, just all emotions, that lump in my throat, that one or two couple tears just kind of streaming. I'm like, man, what is happening to me right now? What is happening to me? I don't know if it's just a perfect collaboration of nostalgia, just meaningful moments, maybe the uncertainty of where Power Rangers is headed, that maybe that line just really had a lot more impact on me and seeing the return of Jason than I honestly thought that it would. How did just the ending of this make you feel as far as the overall episode?
It's so funny when you bring that up, because yeah, I definitely think the ending has a much bigger like impact, and it's kind of watching it now anyways than when it first aired, and it makes me kind of wish they never aired the episodes early to begin with. I kind of wish this was my first time watching it, because yeah, it was really funny because when it first aired, we didn't have any of the news from the Illuminati that, Hasbro and Toei might be splitting ways. We didn't have any of that. We didn't have anything about the movie. We just knew that a movie was in development. So now, like, kind of hearing, all the changes that are going to be coming to Power Rangers. I feel like this line now has a very different meaning, kind of like as if it's trying to say, hey, things might change, but we'll always be Rangers no matter what. That's so it's like almost like a completely different meaning, knowing all the stuff that's actually going to be going on with the franchise in the future, and the uncertainty that follows it as well. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But I gotta tell you, so I didn't really like shed a tear, but I did get goosebumps, and I still do, because I'll still rewatch this scene. And in fact, I even will show it to my older brothers, because they both love the original series. I still just love that scene with the coin flip, starting with "That's not an army, this is an army." To me, it feels like a very much like the best comparison I could kind of give it to is like a very low budget Avengers Endgame, even though
the
they
portals open,
the actors back. Yeah, just the idea of with the portals opening up. I think
where's Zach to say? Where's Zach to say on your left?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, that would have made it so much better. But I think the only thing really missing from that scene is I do kind of wish we had a civilian fight right before it. If we could have gotten all those, all the actors that did show up, plus the two suit actors for Riley and Shelby, just fighting off the armies and then getting their butts kicked, and then that being what makes them call upon the other Rangers as well. I think that would have been really cool. Plus, it would have been awesome to just see Austin St. John and see if he still has all his martial arts moves, because I'm sure he's still he definitely looks like he keeps in shape decently, so I'm sure he could still kick a lot of butt. So it would have been cool to see him doing that civilian mode. But other than that, I do think just the way all the Rangers appear out of the portal ready to fight, I thought that was just such an awesome shot.
Yeah, I thought it was too. For me, I think if there was anything missing, for me, I definitely would have liked to have seen a full Jason morph, not just the sort of Flash morph that we wind up sort of getting. Maybe his face in the the Ranger the Ranger morphers. Go old school classic morphing sequence for Jason. I really would have liked to have seen that. Yeah, but you're right about the civilian fight scenes. We didn't really see too many of them, with the exception of maybe the early battle when the Rangers didn't have their when our Beast Morphers came to actually help the Dino Charge Rangers out. So action wise, I thought the action was really great. I really did enjoy it, especially the original fight sequence with Goldar and the Beast Morphers, if you will, and maybe some of the Dino Charge members. For me, if there was anything missing, I really would have liked to have seen another final showdown between Jason and Goldar. I thought that would have been really cool if they did something like that, original footage, just fighting. And I honestly would have been really great to see more of the Beast Morphers fighting with the rest of the Dino Crossover teams in original footage. I would have even taken another Blaze and Devin fight sequence, which I thought we were going to get, but we wind up seeing Devin just use his bow with the one shot and winds up destroying Blaze like that again. Useless Robo Blaze, this the most useless characters this second half of the season. But those are some of the things that I would have liked to have seen: a full Jason morph and maybe more original footage of fighting between the Red Ranger and Goldar, just based off of their past alone. You know what I mean? Even though the way that they talked about Goldar, calling him Goldar Maximus, it felt like it was a different creature, maybe not the same person. I would thought, for me, it would have been great if it was the same Goldar, just with an upgrade. I think that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely would have loved to have had, even if it was out of suit or in suit, I still think, like you said, one-on-one fight between Jason and Goldar would have been really cool. And especially that could have been their excuse to really show off how powerful Goldar has become with this new form, by having Goldar majorly overpower Jason, even though Jason's super experienced. In fact, obviously, I know this probably wouldn't happen, because as far as I know, they've only made one costume of this, and it's not exactly a costume made for stunts. But a part of me also kind of wishes that we had at least one small fight scene with him in the Omega Ranger outfit. That would have been so cool.
That's great forward thinking, Stewart. I don't even know if that was in the back of their minds or not. I would be curious to know if that's even something that came up. But I do like I do like the way that you think, man. But yeah, also we wind up having ourselves a huge Megazord battle. If anything, this was, to me, this was probably I'm gonna say it, my least enjoyable moment. Just because the Sentai footage special effects just looked bad to me at this point. It just looked a little bit outdated. You know, I thought the concept's cool of a six-headed monster. What did they? I can't remember if he gave it a name or not. But using Keeper's secrets, Evox uses Keeper's secrets to go ahead and create himself a Dinozord, using the DNA of 3 different dinosaurs, 4 energems, and he winds up creating this 6-headed monster that Jason's like, I thought Serpentera was terrible. This thing's got 6 heads. I was like, I did laugh at that line a little bit. But I wasn't a fan of the action. Because the Zord special effects for me just looked a little bit outdated. I did think the combination of seeing the Beast X King Zord get in on that action, I thought was pretty cool for Devin to go ahead and pull that out and see it combine with the other Dino Charge Rangers. That was pretty cool, honestly. But yeah, just some of the battles as far as the Megazord stuff, the special effects just didn't hold up well for me. But other than that, I was a really big fan of the rest of the action. And going back to Goldar a little bit, you know, you talking about how powerful he is. I honestly love seeing Goldar just wipe the floor with the Beast Morphers and the Dino Charge members at the early half of this episode before Jason and the rest of the crew winds up getting in there. So I am glad that they gave Goldar a little bit of shine here to show exactly how powerful he was. But yeah, I definitely wanted a Jason versus Goldar battle this week. What did you think overall, though, about the gigantic Megazord battle we got? Were you a big fan of it or what?
Didn't love it, honestly. Like I kind of agree. Like the CG wasn't very good for the whole fight. Like I didn't think it was terrible. At least at least there was movement going on. You could tell what was actually happening.
Like it
definitely, huh?
It felt like it had a big epic feel to it. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like, oh, this is boring. Like it felt like it was pretty epic, and they put all the pieces together. It was just really the footage that they use. I don't even know how long ago this movie came out, but it just, the footage felt dated to me a little bit.
Yeah, it especially didn't help because they used like footage from the original Mighty Morphin and from Dino Thunder with the cockpit sequences. So you had like really weird aspect ratios when you had them all side by side. You're like, wait, why is this like 360p? This one's like 720 and that one's like 480. What the hell? But yeah, no, I mean, my biggest thing with the Zord battle is that, yeah, I kind of get why it had to happen. I just wish it wasn't as long. I wish they kind of edited it down to make it slightly shorter. Just because I feel like the footage that they didn't use, because even though they used a good amount of the footage from the movie, the fight went on so much longer in the movie itself, and I feel like they could have used like a couple more minutes of that footage, and it would have made the fight feel like a lot less rushed. Because that was kind of like one of my gripes about the final battle is like, man, it was over really fast. Like it was fun. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed every minute of it, but man, it just like came and went. So I feel like they could have at least integrated like one more minute of the Sentai footage into that fight, and then maybe cut out a little bit of the Zord battle to make up for it.
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying there for sure. Looking back on it, there are elements like for me, I didn't mind the length of the action piece, but again, I think it also depends on how you format your episodes, right? You know what footage you certainly have to use, what storytelling moments you certainly have to hit. If you're trying to build up to this particular moment in those 5 episodes, maybe it shows that maybe some of those episodes should have been maybe utilized just a little bit better. But I will say, like for me, I didn't mind it so much in here because what I got, or at least for me as a fan, what I wanted more was to see more story, more character growth and Austin. And I feel like I got that over the action pieces. So for me going into the episode, I got what I was certainly looking for, but I could definitely understand the need certainly for more action. So yeah, I would agree. Maybe cut the Zord battle down significantly, knowing that maybe some of the footage doesn't look that great. Maybe putting in more of the original fight footage that we had certainly talked about, or tell the story a little bit differently as I would suggest, in making bad, so you can have some of those story elements roll over into the previous episode and still feel like you got room to breathe a little bit for everything. You know what I mean? So it just really depends on how you format your series, but I definitely agree with you. Stewart, to wrap up the review in general, are there any particular moments that we missed or characters that you wanted to further talk about, or elements or anything like that from this episode that really jumped out at you?
As for moments that kind of jumped out, I guess because I think I hit all the moments that I really enjoyed about the episode. I did really like seeing when Austin St. John as Jason like first appears in the Dino Charge dimension. I did love how excited like it looked like the other Beast Morpher Rangers were to see him, but I also kind of like the nod to continuity with like Tyler clearly not recognizing him because not even existing in the main dimension, being like, look, we don't have time for introductions right now, not really even understanding why the other Rangers were so excited to see him.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that because I was like, well, maybe Tyler's met him at some crazy point in time, so he already knows who he is. But I guess to Tyler, this is just some other dude. Like, hey, I don't know who you are, buddy, but look, we're in trouble. We got to figure some stuff out. And then maybe Tyler starts realizing like, oh, this guy's legit. He knows exactly what he's doing. I love the line of like doing the full frontal assault, and then Devin's like, oh, old school. I like it. Like, no real plan. Like, hey, you go in the back, we'll just attack from the front. That's just how we do things around here. I thought that was pretty brilliant. But listen, man, overall, I really enjoyed this episode. Was it perfect? No, it certainly wasn't. But I felt like some of the things that maybe we weren't the biggest fan of, maybe a little bit nitpicky, but nothing that I feel like really took away our full enjoyment of what this episode actually turned out to be. If you ask me, I feel like the buildup over the past 4 or 5 episodes is really what helped this episode out. I honestly feel like, because it did take off some of the stresses of having to explain certain things, because you've already been doing such a good job of building it up all the way through. So I really was impressed with the buildup. Seeing Devin get the spotlight in here and the focus on the 2 Red Rangers, I thought was great. I got to see further growth from Devin. Even the idea that before he leaves, he says, this adventure was better than any video game. I thought that was really great, honestly, too. Because for me, again, it only solidifies his role as the leader of this team, but also allows for him to see that there is more to the morphing grid than just the science aspect of things, to truly believe in it and to take it seriously. So I absolutely love that, and just to see the presence that Jason was able to bring to the remainder of to the other teams, and the unity he winds up forming with everybody. The amazing speech. I think this is going to be a speech from an OG Ranger that will live in infamy when it comes to the Power Ranger franchise, especially going forward with a lot of the questions and uncertainty of the franchise. I just felt like this, considering that we don't know where the future is going, I thought this was a really great way to round out a Dino crossover and have some great familiar faces certainly return. So kudos to Hasbro. I thought they did a really great job with this.
Mm-hmm. I'd say if I had to nitpick on one last thing, though,
go
there is slightly a big missed opportunity they definitely missed. And maybe it was because when they wrote the episode, they didn't even know this was going to be the next season they would be adapting. But I do think it would have been kind of cool if in some really tiny aspect, this episode did set up for Dino Fury in some way.
Hey, we don't know if it did or not. We don't know if it did or not. Who's to say when we get into Dino Fury that Hasbro doesn't make a connection to this particular episode, right? The question of where that particular asteroid piece came from, we don't know. Maybe it has connections to an origin story or of some sort to Dino Fury going forward. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. Again, you're probably right, though. I mean, maybe when they wrote this, they had no idea what the next one was going to be, so they didn't play it out. But if I'm Hasbro, I probably would take that opportunity to, even if I didn't think about it, to try and figure out a way how we can make this Dino crossover work for Dino Fury. But we'll see what happens. Yeah.
And then, oh, sorry. I know I said that was the last thing. There is one
No,
more
you're
thing,
fine.
because it went back to what you were mentioning about Jason's morph, how you kind of wish like you could have seen like kind of like in the original show. I do find it weird that they didn't do that, only because nowadays, back then that special effect may have taken like 5 or 10 minutes, but nowadays you could literally do that exact effect in like 30 seconds. You could
Yeah, people
literally
do that on
Google,
Twitch and
yeah,
on
exactly.
Instagram. Like, I'm pretty
You
sure I
could
see filters like that all
Google
the time.
You could literally Google a PNG like GIF of that exact thing, and then just paste it over Austin St. John in a green screen. It would have worked
Yeah,
perfectly.
it would have worked perfectly. Would have worked perfectly. Budget wouldn't have cost anything to do that. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that we wind up getting Austin St. John back at some particular point in time in the future, whether that be for Dino Fury or any other Hasbro, productions that they put together. We'll see what the future holds. But overall, I was impressed. And this isn't the end of Beast Morphers by any stretch of the imagination. The show certainly is continuing. This is just episode 13. We wind up having ourselves, like seven more episodes to go or something like that. So this definitely wraps up the Dino Crossover event that I think a lot of us were certainly hoping for. But Beast Morphers certainly has a ways to go. So we definitely will be back next weekend, ladies and gentlemen, for the next episode of Beast Morphers to go ahead and give you guys our thoughts. So certainly go ahead and stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do yourselves a favor, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Not only that subscribe button, but the bell notification so that when we do drop brand new videos, you guys will certainly be notified. Stewart, are you going to stick around with me for at least one more story?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, awesome, man. Awesome. And guys, of course, remember, as always, these are just our A+ opinions. At the end of the day, though, we definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So let us know your thoughts on the Dino Crossover with Grid Connection. Were you pleased? Was it everything that you were hoping for? If it did live up to your expectations, what were you certainly hoping for? Definitely give us your pros and your cons for the episode in the live stream or comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Stuart, we're going to go ahead and jump over to our next article here. This is something that wind up popping up for us in the middle of the week. We talked about this here already on A+ Morphinominal. We did a video earlier on this week about Hasbro announcing the Jonathan Entwistle as the new architect for the Power Ranger franchise going forward. The Hollywood Reporter let us know that Power Rangers is getting ready to put film and TV universe together for a huge treatment, as we're going to be getting ourselves a crossover universe. So the Hollywood Reporter has come out and told us that Hasbro has big plans, Entertainment One has big plans for Power Rangers, and the positioning of Jonathan Entwistle to be the overseer and the director of movies and TV series going forward has really left big ramifications and huge question marks on the franchise certainly going forward. And while we've personally have talked about it on our channel in the past, you can go ahead and check out the video if you wanted to. It's been a few days, so we've had the opportunity to sit down on this news a little bit more, but I also wanted to get Stuart's perspective in regards to this, also the idea that Jonathan Entwistle is certainly being brought on board. So let's talk about this a little bit here, Stuart, in regards to it. I thought I put up, hold on a second. You know what? Let me go ahead and create this real quick. Now that we got this information, Stuart, I would like to know from you off the top, what are your thoughts in regards to it? Now that you hear that Entertainment One has positioned Jonathan Entwistle to sort of be the overseer of this franchise, what are your thoughts in regards to the news that wind up coming out?
Personally excited, but still like cautiously excited, I should say, because it could mean quite a few different things. The big thing that I think a lot of people are worried about, and I think for legit reasons, is because when you kind of like look at this compared to the I'm still not going to say this is confirmed yet, but the still like kind of really strong rumors, I'll say, about Hasbro and Toei's split going on. I feel like a lot of people are thinking this means that this is going to be the end of like the Power Ranger franchise as we know it, and it's going to be a start of a different Power Rangers franchise. Like essentially going forward, the show will be very different, not just in tone, but essentially it'll be like a whole new universe, a whole new like cast of characters. And I feel like everyone's biggest fear is definitely the idea of, oh, we're Hasbro, so we're just going to be focusing on MMPR and that's going to be it. So I totally get those concerns, but I think the way I'm kind of seeing it, and I guess we'll have to wait and see if I'm right or wrong. I don't necessarily think they're ending the Power Rangers universe, but I do think that with the movie coming up, there is going to be some aspect that changes the universe, kind of Shattered Grid style, I guess you could say, whether it be through time traveling or just through the morphing grid. Something is going to change the universe, so the future movies and the future TV shows won't have to worry about the continuity of the show anchoring them down. I think kind of like the biggest, example of what I could give of how it could like possibly anchor it down right now is looking at SPD. We're literally in the year 2020, 5 years from now, there's supposed to be aliens all around the world in Power Rangers. And supposedly, Grid Battle, or supposedly Beast Morphers takes place like even farther in the future. I still don't know because they haven't really mentioned in the show what year it takes place in, but so it's like kind of that whole idea of they are way down in those kind of areas of that continuity that's already been established. So I think like if they reboot the universe in some way, have something change the universe, it gives future writers excuses to not have to worry about that continuity hanging them down, but they can still have that connection to previous seasons, when they need to for their storytelling. And I do think the idea of having the movie and the shows connected definitely brings in a lot of potential for not just for seeing characters that we know and love from our show, like playing a major part in the movies going forward, but also vice versa. They might introduce new elements to the movies that we can now actually see play out in the show that we never would have been able to see before. Plus, if they're bringing in a director that's done Netflix shows, so it was End of the Effing World. What was the other one again?
I'm not okay with this.
I'm not okay with this. Yeah, I feel like if they're bringing someone like him on this, I doubt he would just kind of like, leave his job doing Netflix shows for, Power Rangers if it was just going to be the same really low budget show that, goes on Nickelodeon. I feel like if he's doing this means there's going to be a much bigger budget and much bigger direction to the franchise. And I think, yeah, and I get change can be scary, but I think that, at least people should go into this open-minded, ready to, at least give this a chance, because I think it could be, a lot of people been wanting changes for the Power Rangers franchise. A lot of people say, well, yeah, just in the writing, not in everything, but, I kind of get it. It's really hard to make, the small specific changes that, I feel like the fans really want to see without making really big changes to the overall brand. So I am definitely excited, but cautiously excited to see what's going on going forward.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I am excited, but cautiously excited. I know I get on here and I spew how thrilled I am that Power Rangers is taking this chance and branching off to something new and rebranding or reimaging itself, or reimagining itself, I should say. But make no mistake, guys, behind this excited facade, there definitely is a ball of nervous energy back there, in regards to, because as me and Stewart have both said, while change is important, change can certainly be scary. It could be exciting, but it could definitely be scary for sure too. And so going into this, and honestly, Stewart, harking back a little bit to the Beast Morphers Dino Crossover that we wind up getting, there are elements of the classic Power Rangers that I'm really gonna miss, that I don't know how they're going to handle moving forward, right? Like, are we gonna get cameos, right? Like, I get the idea of starting a new movie and possibly branching off into TV series and one big sort of storyline. We haven't seen what the movie is going to hold for us yet, so we really don't know what the future is. But are we going to miss out on cameos? Are we not going to get back some of these fantastic actors that have helped establish the Power Ranger franchise? Like, for me, if there is any worry or concern of mine, is like, how much of the past are we really looking to I don't want to say change or forget, but how much of the past are we really leaving behind here? And for me, I would love a little bit more clarification on what that means when it comes to the rebooting of Power Rangers. Because when I look at this, I mean, Jonathan Entwistle, even on Twitter, he says, this is going to be a lot of fun, telling one big Rangers story across movies and TV. So it definitely feels as though he's got a big overarching story that will not only leap off from the movie, but also be told continuing through television series and any other type of forms of media that we wind up getting out of Power Rangers. So for me, what that tells me very much, it feels like they're going to be taking this movie really as, and we've talked about this on the show, the idea of pretty much wrapping up everything that we've had for the past 27 years, putting it in a nice, neat little ball, wrap it up in a present and things like that. And like, here's your Power Ranger legacy franchise. And then from that point on, just honestly telling their story. I was going back, Stewart, and reading some of the Illuminati articles, even some of the Hollywood Reporter articles in regards to the movies. Can I throw out a theory there? Can I put out a speculative theory here?
Please do, because I got one after.
The biggest question mark for me is, what is this team going to be after the movie or during the movie? I'm still very much under the assumption that this is going to be a brand new cast of characters, because the speculation that we've had so far from the movie is that they're going to be taking a brand new group of teenagers or people from the present day and thrusting them sort of into the 90s. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a big heavy dose of some MMPR love, because clearly that's what the general public certainly knows. So this makes me wonder, like, is this new team that's coming in, are they just going to pick up the mantle for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and that's the group that we're going to get going forward in a brand new TV series? Or are we going to get not only an original cast of characters, but are they going to be creating a brand new group of Power Ranger characters out of this, right? Like, are we going to get a brand new Power Ranger team or not? So that's really where I'm kind of left scratching my head at. Like, I feel very much like if we're going back to the 90s, MMPR will have some sort of impact. So I'm wondering, do these kids or whoever comes back from the present, do they come in just to pick up the mantle for MMPR and then go through the present time and eventually, just create a brand new MMPR series, a reboot, if you will, with new characters? Or are we just going to legit come out and be like, hey, yes, we have MMPR influence from the movies, but the series that we're creating, I'm hoping with these same characters, mind you, I'm hoping with these same characters, or a completely different Power Ranger team. What side, where are you leaning? Or do you think we're going to get something different?
My prediction, and the way that I personally would go about it if I was in charge of the franchise, is that they're going to reboot it the same exact way, or not exact same way, but similarly to the way that J.J. Abrams rebooted the Star Trek franchise. So what they're going to do is they're going to take the continuity from the original series, but use that continuity as like a time travel device. So essentially, like, maybe you get modern new characters, that we're introduced to. Maybe one of them has like a connection to the original team. Like maybe one of them is like the daughter or the son of one of the original characters. They go back in time to the 90s, causing a new timeline, causing the new Power Ranger timeline that's going to be like in future TV shows and the movies. And, that's where we get reintroduced to the original Power Rangers with like a new young cast of characters. But essentially when the young kids get back to the present, they take up the new mantle as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But, you still have the legacy that came before them. It's just that now with the changes they've made to the past, there might be a few changes to that legacy here and there, but for the most part, everything could still be kind of contained in that story. Everything could still be connected. But, you also, again, it goes back to what I was saying. You don't have the continuity from, the 27 seasons holding it down, essentially.
Right. You can definitely still tell whatever stories that you want to without feeling like you're handcuffed or anything like that, certainly going forward. Because I do agree, man. I do think that that's probably what the movie is certainly set up to do, because they have told us that, yes, the movie is going to be set in the TV sort of universe, right? So there definitely will be connections from the TV universe in this particular film. But I do think that it is similar with you, Stuart. I think we're on the same page there in regards to utilizing this movie as a great way to have those connections, but also by the end of the movie, kind of literally, I guess, literally like, here you go. Here's your legacy side of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how connected this current stuff that we're going to be getting will be to the past legacy franchise or not. Do you think we'll have major connections, or do you think for the most part, not really?
I think the connections it'll have will be to the original team. I do think whether or not the original show is canon, I do think it is going to play a huge part in the movie, just because, like you said, like I think the Hasbro themselves kind of knows, even though they know there's like the huge fan that, you know, it spans throughout every single season. The majority of people that watch Power Rangers as kids watch the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. In fact, you know, oftentimes I feel like the joke is when you bring up Power Rangers, you know, any season besides Mighty Morphin, people go, wait, there were other seasons?
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, I do think that without a doubt, it's definitely going to have some focus on the original team. I think because of just, you know, the way a lot of movies try to do things a little differently, keep things connected, but also want to pass the torch down. I do think that because of that, the main characters we're going to get throughout the you know, movie franchise, it is going to be original characters. I don't think it's going to be the actual characters from the original show.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I think I feel very positive that the new group of characters that we'll get will be original characters. They're not going to be another Billy, Zach, you know, Jason, Trini, Kimberly sort of thing. I think we're definitely going to get brand new characters here. The question for me at least is, are they going to just end up being a new team of MMPR and continuing that tradition and really launching us off into a new path? Like, for me, I feel like that's where I'm really leaning towards. I mean, personally, I like the idea of this new group of teenagers becoming a more original Power Ranger team and branching off. But as far as like being able to, I think it's almost important though that it, like, yes, even though you are reimagining and rebranding this, to utilize MMPR in some way so that people general public do recognize that this is the Power Rangers. You know what I mean? Because that's where everybody usually makes their that's why everybody usually notices. So I think that's a reason why a part of me is leaning towards that this new group of characters will just be taking on the mantle of MMPR going forward and continuing along with the Power Ranger franchise. For me, it would just be, once we get this movie out of the way, Hasbro going to really pay attention to some of the legacy aspects of Power Rangers still? Like, even though Jonathan Entwistle is creating a brand new universe for us, will they at least take into account some of these legacy actors? Like, will they bring some of these actors back every now and then? Maybe not every season, but maybe drop them in there sporadically, maybe for animation, right? I just don't want Hasbro to completely forget about what has come before and at least still have some sort of niche where you can still include some of these cast members and past continuity from time to time. But I'm definitely in agreement with you. This is definitely going to clean the entire franchise up. I mean, we have 27 years. It's all over the place. If you really need to reimagine or rebrand it, a movie is a great way to kind of condense all that, put it in one nice package, and then just create a story that branches out of that and gives us some really great brand new stuff without forgetting the past. So that's what I'm hoping that Hasbro doesn't forget, you know?
Definitely.
It's great to have shiny new toys and all, but you know, a lot of the fans and stuff that have grown up over generations still want to see some of these characters and maybe have some of these characters reprise their role. So maybe not forget about them too much. Maybe put them in there every now and then, but I still continuing to want a focus on something brand new. Have you had the opportunity to watch any of what Jonathan Entwistle has put together?
Not yet. I saw the first episode of End of the Effing World, and I didn't think it was that good. I thought it was just like kind of meh.
Yeah, I watched 2 episodes of that particular series and I fell off rather quickly. I wasn't able to get into it, but I am not okay with this. I definitely was able to sit down and certainly enjoy it. We did do a review for I Am Not Okay With This, guys. If you hadn't had the opportunity to check it out, like if you are curious about Jonathan Entwistle and what he could potentially bring to Power Rangers, just to kind of see what his vision usually is like for other material that he's certainly worked on. He does have a Netflix series called I Am Not Okay With This and End of the Effing World. I would recommend I Am Not Okay With This to kind of see what Jonathan Entwistle's vision is. So go ahead and check it out. And then if you want to go ahead and check out a review, it is on our YouTube page also. But I am excited for this. I truly am. After seeing what Jonathan Entwistle has been able to bring as far as like letting his vision of teenagers who are coming of age, I do think that he has a great sort of finger on the pulse and being able to examine those type of stories. A couple of things when I was watching his series, I did love his directing work. He definitely knows how to pick up a pace, how to help set a tone with some of his directing style and things like that, from some of his quick shots, from like he knows when to keep the camera still. He knows how to pick up the energy. I thought he did a really good job, especially when it's focusing on the girl's sort of superpowers or powers that she's kind of discovering about herself. I love how he presents all that to the audience as well. So I do think that he's really clever, and I do think that he does have a great handle when it comes to teenagers and understanding them, or at least understanding modern day teenagers and how life kind of goes. So I am eager to see if this is going to how visually this series is going to look going forward, right? Because clearly, if you see anything on Netflix, it looks completely different from that of what we see on Nickelodeon. So I am expecting the production budget to certainly be raised, for each episode to look a little bit more cinematic than we're maybe more accustomed to, and things like that. So I think people are going to be really surprised with what they get. A real life understanding of teenagers, real world sort of circumstances. If anything, the one section I would like to see more out of Jonathan Entwistle is how he incorporates that action and the fun side of things, and the the special effects and the fantasy elements, if you will. Because I think character-wise and tone and atmosphere, boom, I think he's got that down. I would like to see him explored a little bit more. Now, he's not writing them, Stewart. So that would be interesting to see who he brings on as some of his writers. But as of right now, he is overseeing and directing it. What do you think as far as style from television series that we might get? Like, for fans that are so used to what we see on Nickelodeon, what do you think of some of the changes we might see?
One thing I'm hoping for is a change in the type of moral lessons we get of the week. Only because, it's not that I have a problem with like the basic lessons that they keep teaching in Power Rangers, but the way they've been doing it recently, especially with Beast Morphers, has been kind of awkward at times, especially because you have characters that are, at the very least 17, 18 years old, and they're, being told these lessons of, hey, it's not okay to lie to your friends, man, kind of a thing. Whereas like in the Disney era, usually if the lessons were going to be that basic, they would always have like a guest star on the show that was like a really young kid. They'd have the kid do something really dumb so that the adults or the older Rangers could teach the kid, hey, it's not okay to lie to your friends. So with that being said, so it's not that I mind basic lessons. I just didn't like the way they've been presented in Beast Morphers personally. So now that we're getting a Power Rangers that seems to be like, it's still probably, if I had to guess, going to go for kids, which I think it should. I think Power Rangers should always be for kids, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't take a more mature level to it. A lot of kids shows nowadays are way more mature than they were back in the 90s, I think. And that's something that I feel like the Saban era, or the Neo Saban, era of Power Rangers hasn't been able to accept yet, is that kids shows have changed. So that's something I really want to see, is like, rather than doing the, basic one-dimensional lessons of the week, it's actually based on real issues that teenagers face. And I feel like if they're bringing on a director like this, that's probably what we're going to get out of it. We're probably going to get like the not so black and white, one answer to every question. There's going to be like moments of, oh man, there isn't a perfect answer here. These are the challenges of being a teenager right now in high school.
Yeah, and like for me, I'm also kind of curious. Well, I will say this, just from the press release alone, they have said that Jonathan Entwistle is working on non-kid projects. And then they even did their best to showcase that Beast Morphers is a kid show on Nickelodeon to decipher the difference here. So while I would agree with you that there should be an element of Power Rangers that definitely remains for kids, I don't know if that's what Jonathan Entwistle is creating. I mean, maybe there are some elements for kids, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is definitely leaning more towards young adult than kids. So we definitely will probably have more life-changing lessons, if you will, not the talking down to. Like, I really do feel this is going to be a completely different level of storytelling than we currently have for Power Rangers. And what I mean by that is, like, I don't even know if we're going to get the 40 episode seasons anymore. I don't know if we're going to get the 20 episode half a seasons or anything like that. I'm wondering if this really is going to change the format of how the stories being told, considering the fact that he says in his Twitter account, one big story told over several different mediums. I question whether or not it's going to be 40 episodes. I wouldn't be surprised if we get anything between 10 to 15 episodes. Is one episode going to, right? Like, I don't think we're going to get the one episode a week sort of thing, where not one episode a week thing, but wrapping up a story in one episode, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if one episode of Mighty Morphin is an entire season of something like this, right? The idea of maybe we get one or two monsters pop up, maybe one monster throughout the entire season, right? Like, the overarching villain, clearly, but maybe he sends down one monster, and maybe there's like, a character story, villain story, all filled in within that one kind of season, if you will. I don't know if we get like villains of the week any longer. I feel like this is the more long form storytelling, perhaps, instead of just the 1 week monster of the week sort of storytelling. What do you think, though?
Yeah, I think
because I feel like that would really change completely, not only change the dynamic of Power Rangers, but also how they tell their stories too.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think, if anything, the way they could change it, and I think would be perfect, would be if they told it kind of in the Stargirl style of like it, being for a young audience or a young adult audience, but still, like, you can show Stargirl to like any kid out there and it would be fine. And I think it could be the same exact way with Power Rangers if they wanted to go in that direction. Take it from the TV Y rating, give it a TV PG rating, and maybe even having a couple of episodes in each season that's like a TV 14 rating.
I think we're going TV 14 all the way. I really do think we're going TV 14 all the way.
All right. And then, the other thing is definitely make sure, I personally just always have been under the idea that like 23 episodes, 22 episodes a season is just too much. Like, keep it down to 15, I think, is the best number, because it gives you that opportunity to where, like, you don't have to have every episode be story focused, but you can have a majority of them be. But you can also have like the non-story focused episodes be used to really build up your characters a lot more. So I think 15 is just that like perfect number when it comes to television. The other thing, and I've mentioned it to you before on a A+ Hero Report, is that I would hope that it would mean we don't get a Zord battle every episode. Rather,
I'm not expecting it.
Get one or two a season, have it be like, okay, we're getting the Zords out, so this is serious. It's not just, an everyday threat. It's like, no, we have the Zords out because this is a serious threat. These are like, we don't use them unless there's an emergency. And right now, this is an emergency. Did
you ever see Voltron? You ever watch the Voltron series?
I think I finished the first season, but that was about it.
Well, it's similar to that. Like, we don't see Voltron every episode, right? Like, it really is a drawn out season that builds up on characters and stories and really brings out the Voltron when it absolutely sort of needs to, when it really gets to that point. So I'm definitely leaning to that way. But that's what it reminded me of when you mentioned that was Voltron.
Yeah, definitely. And then like kind of like I was mentioning before, have them actually, have each of the moral like complex like episodes be actually about real life things that teenagers go through, not just something as an excuse to give like the obvious preaching to the choir lesson of the day. Give it something where it's like there isn't a solid answer to any questions, just like actual high school students have to go through all the time.
Yeah, like I just this honestly just feels like grown up storytelling to me. And I don't
Mhm.
mean like grown up as in like it's going to be adult thing, but I just mean taking that next level of storytelling for a show. If you're trying to push it outside of just for kids, I think that's it would be a really smart way to go ahead and format the show that way. So we'll see what happens, but I am definitely leaning towards the idea that we got to get out of this mindset of 40 something episodes or 20 something
Yeah.
episodes. I wouldn't be surprised if we get more long storytelling within 15 maybe episode season or whatever the case may be. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think some changes certainly are coming. I don't think we're ready for it yet.
One last thing, and I'm probably gonna get crap in the comments for saying this. I wouldn't mind if they kept one team for several seasons rather than just,
No.
changing the motif every season. Instead, we actually have one team, and that team might change season after season in terms of like maybe one actor gets a new gig, so they want to leave. So they're constantly shifting in and out characters in that sense, kind of like the original, like 5 seasons of Power Rangers. So I think that would be kind of cool if they brought back that aspect of the original Power Rangers, where we keep the same storyline going for a while, and if characters ever leave, it's because of like behind the scenes things with the actors wanting to do other projects, not because we're just changing everything every season.
And I think you're on to something there too, man. I mean, if you're bringing in an entire new cast to be like the launching point of this movie, I would say you contract them for however many years you certainly need. Grow with these characters, right? That's what we're doing with a lot of these cinematic universes that we're getting today. One of the big things that helped push MMPR through the roof back in the day was the fact that we had all these characters. There's a reason why there's nostalgia today, is because of the fact that, growing up as a kid, we had all these seasons to grow up with these similar characters, to get used to them, to get familiar with them, to feel like they're part of the family. You know what I mean? So I think there is something important about having a team and keeping them around enough so that you actually care about this team, right? If you keep switching these people out, one, you're not giving us enough time to fully know who these characters are or get to fully establish them. And when we do, boom, it's time to move on to the next one. So no, I think whoever they get for the cast is going to be the main focus for the series and team, certainly going forward. There is an element of me that hopes that Hasbro does keep some side of Power Rangers kid friendly, whether that be animation side. Maybe they keep some of the writers that they have from the TV show now and push them towards animation. I don't really know, but I do hope that amidst all this rebranding and re-imaging of Power Rangers, that even though we are kind of taking that next step to adulthood, if you will, maturing how we tell our stories, there is an element that still hopes that we get something for younger kids. But I still think that this series itself will probably be more mature, young adult. But something for the kiddies would be great still.
Yeah, and again, just because I'm saying like I want it for kids, I don't mean like it has to stay like as a kid show specifically with kids being the only target audience. I mean just in terms of like, we don't really need to see some blood and gore like during the action scenes. We don't need like the Watchmen type action scenes in Power Rangers. I don't think, like, as much as I love that short film, I forgot the name of the guy who did it, but it was by the dude who did the Castlevania anime on Netflix. I love it. It's freaking awesome. I would never want to see Power Rangers actually go into that direction. Yeah, but I don't mind it getting darker, and I don't mind it going for an older audience. But it should always, to me, be kid friendly. Like, you should always be able to show it to kids, even if they aren't the target audience.
I got you. And we certainly may still be able to get that with this series, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But
basically just like Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Because listen, I mean, even though, and that's the one thing about Jonathan Entwistle, is that while he is certainly known for those darker, more mature coming of age themes, he has come out and said that, don't worry, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the route that we're taking the series. I just think, honestly, his perspective and understanding of that age range and that coming of age, I think he can add some sort of John Hughes elements to it, and that more fantastical side of things. So we'll see how it all comes together. But I do think going forward, I am certainly going to trust Jonathan Entwistle to go ahead and put this together. What we're certainly going to get, who definitely knows. But if anything, I think it's we should start preparing ourselves for some significant changes, whether it be storytelling, different types of storytelling, maybe the return of MMPR in some form or another. We'll see what the future holds, guys, but we'll definitely keep you posted. Any last things you want to talk about, Stewart, before we wrap up the Jonathan Entwistle conversation?
No, I think I about covered pretty much everything. I guess last thing I'll do is give like one suggestion if somehow he actually does see this video. If Jonathan does see this video, which would be awesome, in which case, hey, John. I want to say two things. So first of all, congratulations. Definitely have fun with this is more than anything. And the other one is my idea for a show. If you need some writers to help you out with this, I think the best type of series you could do as like a Power Rangers show is a sequel to Power Rangers SPD, but give it like kind of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. budget and kind of have that be kind of like the tone and feel it goes for. I think that would be incredible.
Nice, Stuart. Nice. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Hey, if I can get Jonathan Entwistle on here for a brief interview, that would be great. Listen, I won't ask you too many questions about Power Rangers. I promise. I'm not going to nitpick your brain about storyline details. I promise. But I would love to at least have him on, at least to get people familiar with him and maybe get an understanding of what some of his vision might be. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll try and reach out to him. You never know, right? I can shoot my shot. Yeah. So we'll see. But guys, listen, at the end of the day, we know change sucks. Sometimes it can be great. Sometimes it certainly can be nerve-wracking when you've been following this season for such a long time. And again, Stuart, I think this does connect to me a little bit for Beast Morphers, the crossover event, because of what Jason says in regards to the idea, like before you, today, tomorrow, even after you, Power Rangers, is always certainly going to be around. It definitely makes me tear up a little bit, because I don't know how actors like Austin St. John and JDF, how Hasbro is going to treat them and whether or not they're going to still include them as part of the family, right? So like a part of me is hoping that this isn't the last that we've seen of these characters. I hope that whatever it is that Hasbro does, as much of a supporter as I am of, hey guys, go into the future, right? Power Rangers has been stagnant for so many years. Some of us are okay with where it's at, and that's certainly all right. But I personally, as a fan, feel Power Rangers deserves more attention, needs to be in front of more mainstream audiences. And if this is what we're going to get to that point, I'm all for it. The only thing that I would ask Jonathan is, please don't forget the past. Don't forget the legacy that certainly came before it. If you're going to not use legacy as much going forward, that's fine. But Easter eggs, small cameos, every now and then would certainly be appreciated. Outside of that, I'm perfectly okay with Power Rangers, because I don't think it's retconning anything. I don't think it's about to say anything that's come before this movie doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to say anything that's come after the original MMPR series doesn't matter. I think this is just a way for them to find some way to get back to the grassroots of Power Rangers in their more popular franchise in MMPR, maybe utilize that as a vehicle to really branch us off in another direction. And I'm here for it. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they certainly know what they're doing. I've loved the build up that Hasbro has given to us, everything that they have said that they're going to do for Power Rangers. They have put into motion, moving it over to Entertainment One, getting a ton of great new executives and writers and directors on board to create something from us. Everything Hasbro has said they're going to do, they are in the process of doing it. Whether it's going to be successful or not, we'll definitely have to see, guys. So I think we should all be open-minded and give Hasbro a little bit of support in regards to trying to pull this off. Because if they do pull this off, I think it would be absolutely amazing for not only us fans, but for the franchise as well. But guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Jonathan Entwistle. Him taking over as a new architect for Power Rangers. He definitely does feel like the Kevin Feige, wouldn't you say, Stuart?
Definitely. If he's in charge of the movies and the shows, yeah.
Yeah, just I don't think Kevin Feige's directing anything anytime soon. But as far as the man, as far as sculpting where the stories and the direction of the universe goes, he definitely is in that Kevin Feige role. But guys, again, let us know your thoughts on Jonathan Entwistle. But other than that, Stuart, I think that's going to take up your time here for joining us on A Plus More Phenomenal, man. So thank you so much for joining us today, Stuart. I really appreciate that, man.
Oh yeah, man, dude. Thank you so much for letting me come on to the show and talk about it with you. Some really cool things happening to the franchise, and I'm excited to see where it all goes.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. And guys, remember, Stuart does in fact stay here on A Plus More Phenomenal. He winds up doing our reviews for Kamen Rider Saber each and every week on Toku Tuesday around here. So if you're interested in following his reviews, please go ahead and do so. And follow us here at A Plus More Phenomenal. Hit that subscribe button along with that bell notification, ladies and gentlemen. And Stuart, if people want to reach out to you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can follow me at TurboStew01 on Twitter. And then you guys can also check out my older channel, Turbo Studios.
Awesome, Stuart. Thank you very much for joining us, man. And we appreciate having you here. And we'll see you. We'll see you later, sir. Thank you, man.
All right. See ya.
All right, guys. So, yeah, thank you very much, Stuart, for certainly joining us. And guys, I'm hoping you guys are certainly letting your thoughts be known about our Beast Morphers review along with our talking about Jonathan Entwistle. But we're not done. We're not done. We've got a couple more topics that we want to go ahead and talk with you guys about. This episode is probably going to run a little bit longer, so I do apologize. But with everything that we have certainly going on, it's a big time for Power Ranger fans right now. So I definitely wanted to spend this time talking with you guys and things like that. So that's why I brought Stuart in, so we can get really down and dirty to all the big moving parts of Power Rangers. But next up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to turn things over to our comic book side of things, because we have stuff to wrap up and things to look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing we're going to talk about, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue number 55, the finale. That's right, titled Second Chance, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful cover by Jamal Campbell, as always, with a fantastic story from not only Ryan Parrott, but also great artwork from Moises Hidalgo once again, as we wrap up this this chapter, if you will, this saga of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We're getting into November here shortly. We're about to get a brand new release schedule of new comic books in Mighty Morphin issue number 1, along with Power Rangers issue number 1. And this is the last time we're going to get to see this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book series. So let me go ahead and pull this out, because I did go to my local comic book store and actually picked up my issue this week. Absolutely fantastic. Just a beautiful cover. This issue, guys, I'm not going to lie, super action packed. You want to talk about just big megazords just throwing punches and trying to take each other down. It was great in regards to just the frenetic action that Moises Hidalgo wind up bringing to this, of getting to see our Power Rangers facing off against the Dark Rangers and their Terrazords. Talk about literally terrifying our Rangers in here. I mean, the Terrazords definitely do put a fantastic beat down on our Rangers, who are really looking for any assistance as much as they can. There's even a reference to the Omega Rangers in here, of Zordon potentially thinking about trying to reach out to the Omega Rangers for that further assistance for our Rangers against the Terrazords. So I'm assuming, if anything, while we don't see the Omega Rangers popping up in this issue like I was certainly expecting, that's definitely coming. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Omega Rangers do pop up in Mighty Morphin issue number 1. So I'm pretty sure they are definitely on their way. I will say this. Great issue. I thought the Megazord action was fantastic. Getting this almost reminded me on levels of like Man of Steel from the comic, from the movies, like the level of destruction that winds up sort of taking place in this issue with these two with these two groups just battling each other is so immense. Like, I would hate to be the mayor of that town to have to try and reconstruct everything, seeing like the Red Dragon Thunderzord like crash and demolish a couple of buildings as it winds up falling from the sky. Like, just an all-out brawl when it comes to these Megazord battles, and I'm here for it. I honestly really enjoyed the new Megazord that Ryan and Hidalgo Ryan and Moises wind up creating, the Mega Terrazord. Like, if you didn't think that the Dark Rangers could put their Terrazords together, they can. And I thought the introduction to it was brilliantly handled, honestly. Like, the idea of seeing this Rita Dark Ranger summon this Mega Terrazord, I thought was brilliant, because in order to combine, it's almost like she gives her saying when she puts this together, it reminds me of like Green Lantern's oath, like brightest day, darkest night, no one shall escape my sight, or whatever it is. Like, it feels like that's what she's summoning, her oath, when she puts this together. She says, let's finish this off properly. And this is what she says. She says, when true fear reigns and sorrow refrains, then evil will be granted its due. When the sadness rings and our evil sings, then the age of man is through. Behold the Mega Terrazord. Dude, that shit just gives me goosebumps, man. Just gives me goosebumps. I absolutely love that, Ryan. I really did. And the design that I thought that Moises Hidalgo did for the Mega Terrazord is incredible. Like, I even think his design for that is even better for his artwork on the actual Megazord itself. I mean, it's just that great, honestly. So shout out to the amazing action. If anything, if I did have a complaint with this issue, I wish it was a little bit bigger. As far as like, I wish it did have a couple more pages. I would not have minded dropping an extra $1 or $2 for a mega size sort of wrap up. Like, it felt a little bit odd to me that we have had sort of the wrapping up of some great storylines in special sized issues, and considering the fact that this was going to be the final issue for MMPR, I honestly thought they would have did like a double size. But regardless of the double size, I feel like they did a good job in wrapping it up and giving us some great teases. And one of those teases that we have to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, you see it on the cover. There's a brand new Green Ranger in town, ladies and gentlemen. When things look like it's about to hit the fan for our Rangers, Billy reaches out to Grace Sterling and says, we need this assistance. And Grace Sterling activates the Green Ranger to go ahead and help her out. What's fascinating about this issue, though, is that while I certainly was almost expecting to find out who the Green Ranger is in this issue, I don't think we quite know who the Green Ranger is yet. I do think that it's I do love the moments that we get here between Grace and Draken. The fact that she reaches out to Draken. I don't know if she initially reaches out to Draken in this issue because she really wants Draken to become the Green Ranger, or if this meeting is honestly in regards to something else completely different. Like, if it's entirely different, I really don't know. But I will say the fact that she has this conversation with him, we see the Green Ranger later on wind up popping up. But if you guys take notice, by the end of this issue, we do not see who is under the helmet. The helmet is taken off, but they pay very close attention to just showcasing you the helmet either on or under the arm, but never showing who the person is underneath that helmet. Could it be Draken? Yeah, I guess it could be. But if you ask me, it just feels off for his character. I mean, he even laughs at the idea, the notion of redemption. So maybe it isn't a redemption that Lord Draken is going for. Like, if you were to ask me if I'm Grace Sterling and I'm trying to get Lord Draken, I wouldn't even ask him, because I don't even know if that's even something in the back of his mind that he wants to have in his life at this particular point in time. Yes, I get the idea of maybe greed for power and taking over and things like that. Maybe becoming a Green Ranger is just that next step to doing so. But I don't know if Draken, with his personality, if he would stoop so low as to grovel at the feet of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll become a Green Ranger again. I just don't know if that's in Draken's sort of personality. So I am questioning if that end of the conversation went well for Grace Sterling and Draken, or if she had somebody else completely in mind, or a backup, if you will. I really have no idea. I will say this, though. We wind up seeing the Green Ranger battling it out with Lord Zed. He winds up destroying the green chaos crystal. And if you look at the very last shot in here, his attention is focused solely on that dagger. Solely on that dagger. I'm wondering if it's Psycho Green in there somewhere. I wonder if there's some elements of Psycho Green in there. Because I believe that's exactly where that dagger came from, and maybe a part of him certainly wants it back. I don't know, but the plot thickens as to who the Green Ranger definitely is. And you know, for me, if anything, it's going to start having me ask a lot of questions to Grace Sterling herself, like, hey, you know, you clearly have been doing this in secret. You clearly have not informed Zordon that you have used this power to create a new Ranger. This is not a Zordon-led Ranger, it doesn't feel like. It feels like this is the ownership and property of Grace Sterling going forward. And I'm really curious to see what the ramifications are going to be like going forward for that. So we'll see what happens, guys. But overall, I thought issue number 55 of Mighty Morphin was a great wrap-up. I think I feel like they probably could have put more storyline moments in there, maybe a double issue. But for what we get, I honestly thought Ryan Parrott and Moises Hidalgo did a great job. And if anything, this just pushes me closer to my enthusiasm level for certainly what we're going to get when it comes to Mighty Morphin and the brand new Power Rangers series going forward. But listen, guys, if you've had the opportunity to check out MMPR issue number 55, what were some of your thoughts? Is there anything that I missed that you want to further go ahead and talk about? Storyline points that you want to go ahead and further discuss? Please go ahead and do so in the live chat or the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. All right. With that out of the way, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic. And this will, in fact, stay with us in regards to Boom Studios, because, guys, Mighty Morphin issue number 1 is coming. And if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be here before we certainly know it. November is right around the corner, guys, and we finally get our opportunity to get a first look at Mighty Morphin issue number 1. Let me go ahead and actually bring this up real quick, guys, because this actually comes to us from comicbook.com. This is the exclusive reveal for it, if you will. Looks like they gave him first dibs. So it says, first look features new Green Ranger, Lord Zed tease, and much more. Let's see here. It says Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is reaching its big conclusion this week, and it will set the table for 2 epic relaunches in Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers. The first of those will feature the Mighty Morphin Squad along with a brand new Green Ranger. And we've got your exclusive look at the anticipated series starting on the next slide. Not only can you get your first look at the interior pages, but they also have a ton of different variant covers as well. The preview features our first look at a conversation between Alpha, Billy, Zordon, and the new Green Ranger. And while we're not sure where this takes place in the flow of the story, the heater conversation that happens on the other page is probably related to who is under the helmet. It also seems Lord Zed is on the mend, and he's probably going to be pissed when he wakes up. This is details for a quick synopsis in regards to the Mighty Morphin issue itself. It says, a new Mighty Morphin team has assembled to take on the deadliest threats on Earth, but who is the all-new Green Ranger by their side? The new Mighty Morphin team is on a collision course with an even deadlier Lord Zed. If you saw from the end of Mighty Morphin 55, he got that ass whooped. He says, who has a new mission and a new motivation, one that will change everything you thought you knew about our heroes. But even if the Mighty Morphin team can find a way to survive Zed and their mysterious new enemies, they may discover the greatest threat to their future is the shocking secret of Zordon's past. No surprise there. Zordon's got a bunch of secrets. It also says a new Mighty Morphin epic begins here, perfect for longtime fans and new readers alike. And that's really what I've been saying. It says it hits comic book stores November 4th. November 4th, ladies and gentlemen, is when it begins. And that I'm glad that they wind up saying this here, that it is a perfect place for longtime fans and new readers alike. So if you have been debating whether or not you want to go ahead and give the comic book series a try, I highly recommend that you definitely do. I don't think that you would be disappointed in the slightest. So definitely go ahead and do so. Maybe utilize issue 55 as more from Mighty Morphin as your launching off point, and then get into Mighty Morphin issue number 1. But regardless, if you've been thinking about comic books, November 4th is the day, guys. Go pick up Mighty Morphin issue number 1. Let me also go ahead and bring this up to you guys. This is a couple of the preview pages that they talked about in that article from comicbook.com. This one is, we get to see the page here from Billy along with Zordon and Alpha having this conversation. You get the opportunity to see the Green Ranger is there. That looks like that's probably more like a holographic image, or at least maybe just a suit in general. But I would not be surprised. Like, I really want to see what this conversation is going to be like. I would not be surprised if it's heated in its own right. Maybe Zordon's a little bit upset that Billy and Grace Sterling have kept this from him for so incredibly long. So I will be fascinated to see exactly how that conversation is going to go down. We also wind up seeing here, you know what? Let me pull this up too. I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second. Comicbook.com, Mighty Morphin. I want to go back to this article because I want to see who was the artist here. It says, are they going to give me the main artist information? I don't think it does on here. Does it say? Interior art, Marco Rena. Okay, Marco Rena. I see you, Marco Rena. I am interested to see how he's going to do here as far as the artist goes. Just from the civilian mode of things, it looks great. It still looks like each of the characters are pretty distinctive from one another, honestly. If anything, I would probably like this almost feels more like, I don't want to say Dan Mora, but Daniel DiNiculo in regards to like the attention to detail and things like that, like maybe the clean lines, if you will. I do like Moises Hidalgo's artwork a little bit better in regards to the civilian, because I feel like in the civilian modes, he really gives a more distinctual characteristics, if you will. Here I can definitely tell them. I can definitely tell who these characters certainly are from Marco Rena, but maybe a little bit more attention to detail is certainly something that I would love to see. And then of course we get the opportunity to see here the villain side of things on that final page. Clearly Lord Zed pissed off from what happened to him in issue 55, still on the mend, but clearly having some plans. Look, Marco Rena, I do enjoy what I'm seeing so far when it comes to just his artwork, for sure. Like even seeing Billy in his Mighty Morphin blue costume, I think Power Ranger wise looks great. I really do love the colors and the art style. Civilian mode, yeah, I probably would like a little bit more detail, but we'll see. We'll see what the entire issue itself certainly looks like. But from what I've seen so far, I am very much eager and looking forward to this. But I'm kind of curious to know what your guys' level of excitement is for Mighty Morphin. I've been on the side of Boom Studios for quite some time. I think Ryan Parrott, Kyle Higgins, Anthony Burchetti, whoever has been working working on the Boom Studios comics over the last several years, have really just a great understanding of this franchise and really knows how to have fun with it, not only on just its epic sort of action and scale, but just on a character perspective also. They've established some great character and some great lore for Power Rangers going forward. So the fact that we're now sort of wrapping up that chapter and moving on to the future, I'm eager to see exactly what other ideas Boom Studios and some of these writers and creative teams can certainly come up with. But I'm really curious to know. But guys, at the end of the day, I want to know your thoughts. What's your level of excitement for Mighty Morphin issue number 1, November 4th? Do you plan on picking one up? Go ahead and let me know your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. And last but not least, guys, we've got one last topic that we're going to talk about, and then I'll get into your live viewer questions and then maybe go through some of your comments if I can. I know there's a ton of comments today, so I may not be able to get to everybody. This is why I recommend people send in your live viewer questions if you get the opportunity to. Again, if you want to submit a live viewer question to make sure it gets answered and recognized on today's episode, go ahead and send them over to aplusmorphinominal@gmail.com. aplusmorphinominal@gmail.com to go ahead and get your question answered today on our show. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some Zenkaiger rumors for you guys. Zenkaiger? Zenkaiger. I don't know how you pronounce it yet. But we got some rumors that are certainly brewing out there on the internet. Now, I tried to find the first set of rumors that came out maybe 2 weeks ago or so. I couldn't find them, unfortunately, but I did find a brand new set of rumors. This comes to me actually from the real Matt Hunt, who wind up sending this screenshot here from Dukemon, who I think is like in the Power Ranger forums and threads and things like that. But I feel like Dukemon is actually also the real Matt Hunt. Maybe I'm wrong though. I could be wrong. But regardless, I feel like I've seen the name Dukemon pop up every once in a while, especially when it comes to revealing news for some of the upcoming Super Sentai series. So he does. I feel like that person usually does have some pretty good information, or at least things to certainly ponder on and think about going into our upcoming Super Sentai 2021 season. But this comes to us from the real Matt Hunt. At the bottom, you can say again. He says, "Grain of salt, guys." So these are just rumors. Take these with a grain of salt. But he says, all 5 Zenkaiger seem to have go-to. In other words, rugged, angular, gnarly suits like metal heroes. And as such, it doesn't look like the suits are easy to move in. The 6th Ranger seems to have a suit like Changarian. Now, Changarian, I believe, was an older tokusatsu series from back in the day, maybe in the 70s or so. I tried to find some photos of Changarian. And mind you, Changarian's the one in black, if I'm not mistaken, from some of the things that I have seen. I guess this does harken back a little bit to maybe the Metal Heroes dynamic. You can clearly see that the types of costumes and suits that they use clearly significantly different. I always felt like Metal Heroes always went above and beyond when it comes to some of their costume designs. But the rumor itself references the fact that the 6th Ranger does kind of look like it's inspired from maybe Metal Heroes, especially specifically in Changarian, who is right here. It also says metallic designs from the bubble era are pretty cool. I don't know what that means, the bubble era. If you guys understand what that's in reference to, please go ahead and let me know. So yeah, it seems all 5 Zenkaigers seem to have some sort of really gnarly, metallic looking, rugged type of suit, similar to that of Metal Heroes. Again, that's just a rumor. That's just a rumor. So take it as a grain of salt. It certainly could change, or it could be something significantly different. But what the real Matt Hunt said after this really tickled my fancy a little bit. If you look at the top, it says, "Just assuming for a moment that this grain of salt is true, it would make a lot of sense to me. Toei is allegedly no longer working with Hasbro, meaning they can do what they wish with Sentai, and they would be better served making the team resemble Power Rangers as little as possible." And for me, I don't want to say I laugh at that, but I chuckle at it a little bit, because one of the things that we've talked about on here, especially when we did our Hasbro and Toei split video, was that, when we don't know what the relationship is like between Hasbro and Toei, right? There could be no friction there. I mean, there could be friction there, right? Or there could be no friction there. There could be the case of, hey, we understand that if this, again, this is allegedly, if the rumors and speculation, everything turns out to be true, right? That Hasbro and Toei, in fact, do split. Who's to say that Toei doesn't understand? Who's to say that Toei isn't in full support of the idea of Hasbro taking Power Rangers and doing something significantly different with it? I also talked about the idea that a move like this would really eliminate the handcuffs that I think we've given Power Rangers and Super Sentai over these years, right? You have to take into account that the writers for Power Rangers are really dependent on whatever Super Sentai dishes out to them. For years, they've had to deal with the footage that they've been given and sort of write around things. And granted, while I think you certainly can tell great and inspiring stories that way, it definitely makes it easier if you have your own original content and can tell the stories that you want to have to tell without leaning on what somebody else has given to you. And that's where we get into that Hasbro and Toei relationship, how if they do the split, how creatively this could take the handcuffs off of Hasbro to tell the stories that they certainly want to tell. But what about the Super Sentai side of things, right? What about the Toei side of things if this Hasbro idea comes to fruition? For them, it means we can take more chances with this particular franchise. Maybe after 40 something years, maybe there are elements that they want to change about Super Sentai also. Maybe not on the big scale like we are, but after so many years of having suits that are, I don't want to say similar, clearly they have their own designs, but you know what I mean. Maybe this is an opportunity for them to depart a little bit from those suits. If you want to try and make Super Sentai, I don't want to say successful again. I don't really know what its ratings are like or whatever the case may be. I feel like I've heard people worry about if Super Sentai would stick around. I don't know anything about that, honestly. I mean, I just know that the season's been around for 45 plus, or maybe almost 45 years now. So maybe there are elements that Toei wants to certainly change for Super Sentai. And maybe a part of that is, hey, if we know that this particular series that we're creating right now in Zenkaiger, if that's not going to be adapted US-wise, we can do whatever we want to here. Create suits the way that we want to, create Zords the way that we want to, create storylines the way that we want to. It's certainly up for debate, and that would not surprise me at all. So I do think that Matt Hunt certainly is onto something here. When he says the idea that Toei is allegedly no longer working with Hasbro, meaning they can do what they want or do what they wish with Sentai, and it would be better served making the team resemble Power Rangers as little as possible, right? Disconnect yourself. Start making Super Sentai into something that you envision it to be in this brand new Reiwa era, if you will. And I think that would be pretty smart. So heck, maybe this is even further supporting the case of a Hasbro and Toei split. Like, even if not, like, it's even at least come to the mind of Matt Hunt for even suggesting that this could be potentially one of the reasons, right? Like, or at least one of the benefits of a potential split. And I think he might be right, and I think he might be onto something. So we'll see what happens, though. Again, while the Hasbro and Toei split has not been confirmed, like Hasbro, in the sense that Hasbro hasn't come out and said, hey, we're no longer partnering with Toei. We haven't gotten that press release yet. I will say everything that we have seen up until this point has at least hinted that it is more plausible than people think. I mean, I've thought that this was plausible certainly from day one. I mean, again, our Hasbro and Toei split video that we did, we laid out 3 points as to why this is plausible. And since then, I definitely feel as though more information continues to come out to show that Hasbro and Toei split is more plausible than people really want to take credit for. I mean, Hasbro tells me we want to take Power Rangers and reimagine it, connecting a TV and movie universe. For me, that doesn't sound like Toei's any part of those plans at all. Or they probably would have announced that a partnership with Toei in the process of doing something like that. So we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. But I still continue to lean on the side of that Hasbro and Toei split is a real thing and is happening. But we'll see if we ever get that announcement from them. I don't think we're going to get something like that at least until Dino Fury at least starts. So not until 2021 for sure. But guys, other than that, that is going to wrap it up for us today in regards to your topics and your reviews. So with that out of the way, did I leave my live viewer questions? Okay, let me go ahead and see if you guys did submit any live viewer questions. Let's see here. I will say this. The one thing that I hate about my phone so much is that, and also the fact here, and I'm glad that somebody posted this just now in our on the comment section of one of our videos. From what we've heard as far as rumors for Zenkaiger, I think it is important here that I wonder if this will solidify for us further ideas as to when this season, or like the theme behind what the show is certainly going to be. I'm wondering if this is further identification, like, because when we broke it down, or when they broke it down, they talked about the idea that this could mean like machine world or something like that, full power, full throttle. If you were to tell me that the 6th Ranger kind of looks like this guy, like, I'm wondering if I'm wondering if we really are in the world of like cyborgs or machines, right? Like this whole world is just built off of it. And so maybe our main group will be cyborgs or robots or whatever the case may be. I don't know. But the idea that maybe, again, grain of salt, that maybe they kind of have a Metallic Heroes sort of look with the Sixth Ranger looking like this. Yeah, maybe that's the route that we'll go. So maybe this does further influence where the theme is for the series, but we'll see when we get there, guys. But let's get into these live viewer questions. I don't know if anybody submitted some questions over this week, but let me see if I can find that. Oh yeah, we got a few. All right. Thank you guys for certainly coming through. Jessica Friedman. Is there any word on who will play the green and black Dino Fury Rangers? And why did VR Troopers and all their other Ranger spin-off shows only last one season? I guess maybe, sometimes I think you could have too good of one thing on TV at once. I felt like because of the fact that they had Power Rangers on at one time, maybe other shows like VR Troopers and Big Bad Beetleborgs, like maybe there just wasn't enough room for them anymore, if that makes sense. Sometimes I feel like when you do start spinning things off, maybe it just becomes more and more watered down and people aren't that attuned to it. I'm not quite sure. I would assume, if anything, just not enough viewership. Maybe Power Rangers was just so big during that time that's really where most of the attention was paid. So that's my only reason I could think of. Just viewership, maybe numbers weren't there for them. As far as who will play the green and black Dino Fury Rangers, nothing has been officially announced as of yet, but the speculation right now has been Alexandra Nunez to play the Green Ranger and Chance Perez to play the Black Ranger. Now, so far, the cast that the Illuminati has announced as its potential cast has in fact seen the fact that the fact that the cast from the Illuminati is something that Power Rangers, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place right now. The fact that the Illuminati has already showcased us the potential actors that are going to be playing the role, and 3 of them have already been confirmed by Hasbro, makes me feel like it's a pretty sure bet that Chance Perez and Alexandra Nunez will in fact be a green and black. But again, any of that can change at any point in time. I haven't seen them in New Zealand. Hasbro hasn't really announced them or anything like that. So who knows? But as of right now, those are the 2 that we're definitely leaning on to see happen. Let's see here. I know AJ had a couple of questions that he sent me in regards to Kira Major at the beginning of the week. So I'll go through some of these. So far in this season, what do you think has made the Super Sentai series stand out from the past Sentai series? And what do you think should be improved or left alone? I feel like they actually have a story. Like, just coming off of something like Real Soldier, I feel like they have an idea of where it is that they certainly want to go with this franchise. With this series, I should say, putting in great characters so far, building upon them, allowing everybody to have I love the interaction and the chemistry that they've managed to kind of put together. I think the Zord is rather unique. I think they've just taken a really great theme in regards to jewels and vehicles and given us something new in that sense. But the character wise, I feel like it's not, I don't even say if it's completely something new, but maybe just learning from some of your past mistakes from the previous couple of seasons and managing to learn from them and put something together like this, I think has been really fantastic. For me, the standouts have definitely been the characters and the attention to detail when it comes to the story. Like the fact that we've gotten so many flashback sequences and stuff, like it definitely makes me feel like going into this season, the writing team really understood the lore of this story that they were going to go ahead and focus on and tell. And for me, I think that's pretty cool. It definitely stands out to me, at least from Real Soldier. You say, if Hasbro and Toei were to renegotiate their contract, formerly Saban's, would you like Kara Major to be adapted into Power Rangers? And would you like to be different or similar to Kara Major? So if Hasbro and Toei were to renegotiate their contract, would you like Kara Major to be adapted into Power Rangers? Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it was to be adapted into Power Rangers. I don't know if they would. I mean, maybe Hasbro decides to do this with Jonathan Entwistle and branch off to create this brand new world. But maybe there are elements of this Power Rangers show that's been around for years that maybe Hasbro wants to continue on the side without paying too much attention to, if you will, to kind of still provide us with this. I don't think that's the case, but if they were to do something like that, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Kara Major adapted. Honestly, I don't know how you would do that, to be honest with you. In regards to, I mean, I feel like you can. Whether or not Jules in the vehicle theme would work here in the U.S., we'll see. But yeah, give me Kara Major. I think they could do something with it. What is your score of this series as of now? As of right now, I probably would definitely give Kara Major an A. I don't know if that's an A plus yet, a regular A or an A minus, but it's definitely up there for me in regards to it. So those are some of your questions there. Let's see. Gabriel, what's up, Gabriel? Appreciate you coming through. He says, what's up, Adam? My question is a two-part question, and it is pertaining to the recent news of Jonathan Entwistle being the architect of the Power Rangers cinematic universe going forward. I am very excited by the news, and I know some people are worried, but I believe this is exactly what we need. Anyway, my question is, what themes would you love to see Jonathan Entwistle explore with this new universe of movies and TVs? It can be previous themes that we have used before, like dinosaurs or animals, or tech themed a la Time Force or SPD, or it can be something not yet explored. And do you think that they will reboot MMPR in this cinematic universe? They can be similar to how they did the Star Trek 2009 reboot. First off, Gabriel, I think that's a great reference, because Stewart just made that same Star Trek reference when we were talking about it. So I definitely do think it's probably along those lines of how they did Star Trek, right? Like, not forgetting about the past, but somehow rebooting and branching off, from the past, if you will, into a brand new universe or dimension. So I do think we could get something along those lines, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they utilized it here. So for me, when I think about it, I do think that if anything, it would be a reboot of MMPR, right? Because that's what they did with the Star Trek. All these years with Kirk and Spock and all those, right? They've told countless movies, the huge Star Trek lore and things like that. But when you take the Star Trek 2009, it all of a sudden we get jumped back into the past. We still have that Kirk, Spock, right, and Sulu and things like that, but a younger generation, if you will. So for me, I don't necessarily think it's going to be Zach, Jason, Trini, Billy, Kimberly, a younger version of them again. I don't think so. I think if anything, we'll get a new cast of characters that will just pick up their mantle of MMPR and bring MMPR into a more current modern day version of those characters into a television series. Either that or similar, like you said, new characters, but creating new themes. I do think that because dinosaurs is so popular and that is the connection to Mighty Morphin, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the direction they go to at least kick it off. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some particular point in time we don't. I wouldn't be surprised if at some particular point in time when we get there, if they eventually do change themes, if you will. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. I truly am. But I do think that they're going to go along with the MMPR, maybe a new cast, and tell their stories from there. As far as like themes, I know you said like themes wise, like I really like, for me, I'm fascinated about how they're really going to just combine the idea of like teenagers in this real world facing these real life circumstances and dilemmas that every high school kid has to. How do you go ahead and tell that type of story more grounded in reality with that fun sort of adventure of Power Rangers? Like, I'm really eager to see what they come up with. So I think dinosaurs first, and then eventually maybe they will move on. But again, I have a feeling we have to we may have to start changing our mindset as to how these stories are going to be told. I don't think they're going to be utilizing the same formula that they did making these previous Power Ranger shows. I don't think every season is going to be an upgrade or a new suit. I don't think so. I think it's going to be long form storytelling, staying with the same theme and story. I mean, clearly going on forward and things like that. But I have a feeling it's going to be more long form and a little bit more drawn out in its storytelling instead of quickly trying to upgrades and power ups and things like that. So I think the storytelling will significantly be different. Rashad has a question. What's up? Maybe it's the same question that you had. Let me see. Oh, okay. Yes, you just sent it from a different website. Okay, so that works. Different email account. This is from Zachary. He says, hey, Adam and Stewart, how are you? Appreciate you with the question, Stewart. He says, thought I'd leave some quick thoughts as I take my lunch break. He says, the Dino team up aired on Nick today. Wasn't home for the airing. Blessed I saw it months ago. My work tie into the episode was seeing Lightning Collection Dino Charge Red Ranger in a bin. That was after 8 a.m. Eastern. I kind of laughed. He says, the actual episode was good, way better than Dimensions in Danger. I agree with you. Not saying that because JDF was involved in the last team up. I wish there was more MMPR going into this. I like that it was the younger generation doing the story building. You know, I will agree with you there, Zachary, for sure. Like, there was an element of me thinking like, man, it sucks that it was just Austin that wind up coming back, right? But there is an added element of having the main story really focus on a younger generation of Rangers, not only Beast Morphers, but our just recent Dino Charge group and Dino Thunder as well. Instead of going all the way back to the past, you're bringing the one OG in. And granted, yeah, we did get the MMPR team, but just in costume. But I do think that there is an importance about letting this younger generation sort of lead and having the older generation recognize the great work that they've done and kind of passing on the torch. So I agree with you. The MMPR comic kind of trumped me. I was thinking Grace was going to be the Green Ranger, not just saying with her past Ranger experience. She did dress in green a smidge. Her Megazord was greenish looking. We know who the Green Ranger is. It's Draken. The coming comics will be his redemption story. I love the overall action. The general comic did its job. I am buying Power Rangers on November 1st. So Zachary seems like he's pretty confident that it is in fact Draken. I don't think it's Draken, but it certainly could be. It certainly could be. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think that there is a redemption arc maybe somewhere for Draken. I just don't know if that comes in the form of a Green Ranger. But Zachary, hey, you've been right plenty of times in regards to this series. We'll see what happens, man. We'll definitely see what happens. But I think that is probably it for all the questions that I actually wind up having for you guys. Yeah, I think that's it. But all right, guys, other than that, let me see if I can jump into this live comments with you. And then if anything, again, I'm not going to take too many comments in here. I'm really going to scroll through because we are already over 2 hours and I do got to get some packing and stuff done. But let's go ahead and jump into these comments. JB says, I hated the CGI. I'm in agreement with you, man. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Zord battle. I mean, it came across as epic. Don't get me wrong. It did come across as epic. I thought the musical score worked out really great in some great moments. But when it came time for that big Megazord battle, I mean, I was talking with my friend Kent over from Morphine, the Morphine Network. He did say it was great to see the Megazord, the original Megazord back, and it really was. It really was. But yeah, it just the footage itself, I just felt was a little bit more outdated, is all. Now Ultra says, what I want in crossovers are interactions, not just soulless suits standing together with an explosion being the main part. No, I definitely understand that. Not Ultra for sure. I mean, for me, I definitely would have loved to have had like a Jason and Devin sort of moment where they just had some leadership talks, if you will. I mean, we did get a small Jason and Devin moment in the Morph X tower, if you will, but I thought they did good. I thought they, as far as the overarching story for the Dino crossover, I thought they did a great job of building it up over the past like 5 or 4 episodes. I thought they did a really good. aspect in regards to that. So I didn't feel like they had to throw in a ton of storyline elements for the characters in here. I thought it was really like, hey, let's see Jason and get some of this action going because of how they set up the crossover so many episodes prior to it. But it felt good to me. It felt good to me, honestly. I'm sure some people felt it was rushed. Like Shadow Nova says, it also felt kind of rushed to me. I do agree that Jason was literally the best part of it. His lines were just Shakespeare compared to most PR lines nowadays. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Definitely Shakespearean. I thought he had some great moments that just showcased and utilized why Jason is the OG leader and like general of the Power Rangers, because he just like gave me goosebumps listening to him speak. It's almost like he's very captivating on camera. He just owns the screen when he's certainly there. He's got a gravitas about him that I really enjoy. Something I just don't think JDF has, maybe because we've seen him around for so long. Maybe sometimes I feel like he can overact his lines a little bit. Jason's always come across as very much like the cool Power Ranger, but when I look at Jason, I think to myself, now that's a leader. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, just from this episode alone, I really enjoyed it. So I enjoyed the Jason parts. I mean, one of the tidbits I complained about was like, yeah, it would have been great to have more of Jason, but what we did get of him, I was okay with. Ooh, now Ultra says here we have really crappy voiceovers from the Dino Rangers. I'm glad you brought that up, not Ultra, because I was confused in a sense of like last I checked, I thought didn't they get the actors that played Shelby and Riley to come back to voice their roles for Dino Charge? I'm surprised that they weren't able to get them to just do ADR work for the Dino Thunder. Like, were they even approached to ask? Are the actors just that over Power Rangers that they don't want to come just to do a couple of lines? I really don't know, but yeah, man, I was not the biggest fan of some of the voiceover work, and I haven't been impressed with the voiceover work honestly since I noticed it, especially in last episode. What's up, Christopher? Appreciate you coming through. Bacon and Sushi says the voice for Dino Thunder Red and Blue was Ravi's actor. I listened carefully when I watched this crossover 5 times. We'll see if that's confirmed or not. Somebody ask Jazz Meat if somebody hasn't. Now Ultra says, but I think the ultimate takeaway from these 2 team-up specials is if the team-up results in needing to use Super Sentai footage, it probably is not going to be good. We clearly can make a better team-up specials when we shoot our own original footage for team-ups than relying on Sentai footage, because there was no need for Dino Thunder to be in this crossover, but they are here due to the footage. And even if you want to utilize some of the footage, I honestly would have loved to have seen more original footage, considering the fact of just the plethora of original footage that we've seen in Beast Morphers. I was surprised we didn't get more of it in here. Johnny says Dino Fury needs to do like a 6 to 7 crossover arc between Beast Morphers and another team up team, and a Surprise Forever Red team up battle. Johnny, you're literally just making like you if you had your way, Johnny, half of an entire Power Rangers season would be a gigantic crossover. We wouldn't even focus on the actual storyline. That's too big of a cross. We don't need proper storytelling and writing. You don't need 6 or 7 episodes for a crossover arc. You just don't. Bacon and Sushi says, I still find this episode 9 out of 10 almost perfect. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it also. If anything, I probably would give it like probably a B. I probably would give it a B. Doomsday says, which was better, Dimensions in Danger or Grid Connection? I don't even think it was close, to be honest with you. Grid Connection for me. But again, I think a lot of that has to do with the buildup itself. If I had to look at it, in its own singular tone, like its own individual episode compared to the other, I probably still would like this one better. Because if anything, I think Devin was a great anchor for this. Like he took the lead of this episode. Like the it was certainly told through his eyes. It didn't feel like Austin came in and took over the role. Granted, I wouldn't mind if he kind of did or had a bigger role than what he did, but I like the fact that the episode was led by Devin. Sarav, what's up, Sarav? Certainly good to see you in here. Doomsday says, I wonder if the new non-kid version of Power Rangers will kind of be like Power Rangers, but PG-13 or TV-14. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Doomsday, if I had to put my money on it. Sarav says they could have shown so much of interaction among the Dino teams. And again, guys, I know a lot of you people didn't like what I said about the Making Bad episode. But again, that's the risk that you run. That's the risk when you make something a clip show, regardless of how you guys feel. Oh, it wasn't a clip show, it was a villain show. I mean, that's fine and all, but when you spend majority of your time dealing with the villains and them just looking at clips, that time can be spent, valuable time, mind you, with maybe some further interactions between Dino teams, right? If you take maybe some of what we saw in this episode, maybe transponded it over into Making Bad, maybe this episode of Grid Connection could have allowed for more interactions with Dino teams. Again, the fact that there's a clip show in the middle of a build-up to a Dino crossover shouldn't even exist, guys. Like, it honestly shouldn't even exist. I mean, if you want to look at clips, perfect example, okay? You guys remember when Shattered Grid was getting ready to drop, that we wind up getting that really cool trailer from Bat in the Sun, I believe it was, where we got to see Lord Draken sitting on his throne, right? And they utilized clips from past Power Ranger shows. And what do we see? We saw like an entire screen, or like thoughts and memories just in front of them, just all over the place, right? And the camera spanned all across them, so you got a great glimpse. Boom, 2 minutes, if that. Boom, 2-minute trailer, right? That's all we needed. Hey, guys, we got a plethora of weapons that we get the opportunity to choose from. Maybe on one of the shots, they can have all these different clips and footage playing from some of these old familiar foes, and they wind up picking one in particular, and it's Goldar. Boom, and then you just move on from there. Yet you spend literally 10 or however 5 whatever minutes picking out villains, going through clips. Like, you can still get that same nostalgic feeling of clips without making your episode so full of clips. Whereas if you know you've got stuff and storyline plots and details and things that you want to focus on for the Dino crossover, you got to use each episode to the best of your absolute ability. And if that means getting rid of clips so that you can fill that in with more interactions and attention to detail, do it. But again, this harkens me back. Like, if there was something, guys, if there was something that you missed in this Dino crossover that you wanted to see, look at Making Bad and see if they couldn't have utilized maybe these last 2 episodes just a little bit better in providing more interactions with those Dino teams, or more interactions from Austin St. John. Like, granted, that if Jason only wanted to be in 1 episode, that's great, but you can't tell me you still can't get other interactions by telling a story outside of a clip episode. So just remember that, guys. If there was something that you missed and didn't get the opportunity to see or wanted to see more of, I would blame Making Bad for that. I really would. Video, what's up? He says, thought they said this team up was a 3-episode arc. I think it started at episode 9 because of the Ranger Vault and all that happened at the moment. Yeah, so we had the Ranger Vault, we had the Ranger Vault, which was Evok Snare. We had the 2 Captain Chaku episodes, Making Bad, and then Dino Crossover. So I feel like that's a 5-episode arc, if you ask me. So Rob says, and the other issue is Devin. The guy mucks up occasionally, but they often choose to undo his character growth. I mean, video game tournament, seriously, that shouldn't come as a surprise. He literally won the video game tournament he was just in. You know how devoted Devin is to his video games. Let's not act like season 1 Mayor Daniels and Devin didn't have issues because of the fact that Devin played on his video games so much, right? The fact that Mayor Daniels wanted his son to step away from video games a little bit, or find other things in his life that he can certainly focus on. I mean, we knew coming into season 1 that Devin's love was video games and tournaments. The guy's always playing something along those lines, and he even referenced the idea that he had to defend his trophy or his championship that he wound up winning last time. So I get the idea of Devin being fully invested in his video games, because nothing leading up to this has told me otherwise, that Devin doesn't have a huge focus on video games. I think the idea that he doesn't necessarily believe Keeper, while yes, clearly a mistake, doesn't come as a surprise to me, because again, I feel like Devin understands there's something between seeing something and not seeing something and being able to believe in it, right? It very much is like, it definitely very much reminds me of the Force, that while there are times that, if Devin is being a Power Ranger, he knows how the morphing grid on a science aspect works, but does he know how morphing grid works on a faith side of things when it comes to visions and telling the future? I don't necessarily think he's really been super exposed to that side of things. So I get the idea that his video games sort of come first, and if things get serious, give me a call. You know what I'm saying? We've seen this before in the past of Rangers leaving the grid battle force to go and do things throughout their particular day, but also remembering that eventually coming in and be like, oh, that's right, I got to save my teammates, So I did think that's where the drama came in, because for me, I love seeing Devin's growth in here. The idea of realizing that there's more to the morphing grid than even you certainly are aware of. And I think seeing how everything is connected, seeing the meteorite, having Devin step into the morphing grid and send the message, visually seeing that remnant of the asteroid turning into a power coin and sending out an SOS message, all of that builds up to your belief and your faith in something. And I think the message even comes towards the end for Devin when he says, hey, I didn't necessarily believe in that stuff all the time. So it doesn't matter. There's a science and tangible aspect about Power Rangers and in the morphing grid that I think Devin is all on board for. But when you start having to ask him to believe in something that he certainly can't see, I don't know if that was necessarily in Devin's character up until this moment, and it showed the vast lesson that he wind up learning at the end of the day, that listen, this adventure was better than any video game he could have ever possibly imagined. And I think that was a great reference for him, and even continued to solidify him as a great leader now that he has an even further understanding of the stuff that wind up happening in this issue. So in this episode. So I don't think it was too far off for his I don't think it was too far off from his character. Shadow Nova says, this might sound stupid nitpick, but ASJ should have kept his beard. He would have been more badass. I definitely would have been great to see his beard for sure. Beards are badass, not because I have one or anything like that, but I feel like I do enjoy Austin St. John with a beard, but it's a kid's show, so maybe they're like, no beards because of kids. I don't know. James, what's up? James Lamont's in the house. What's up? He says, Jason, what's up? Appreciate you coming through. Now Ultra says, your criticism for Making Bad I disagree with. I more blame Grid Connection. Every year we get a clip show. It is expected. So the fact that they use a clip show that isn't a holiday special was why I liked Making Bad over Grid Connection. Making Bad was a surprise. Grid Connection was your paint by numbers rush team up special like Legendary Battle, except I prefer Legendary Battle. Man, now Ultra, you really did not like this episode at all then. For me, I will have to humbly disagree, man. Just because you do something that's expected doesn't mean you have to do it. And I think that's the difference there. Oh, Johnny, he says, did I get his Facebook questions? Thank you, Johnny. I'm glad I noticed that. Let me go ahead and get these questions for you, man. I'm so sorry. I'm the worst about going back and finding them. Let's see here. There we go. He says, do you think there is a more likely chance for Hasbro to do Power Rangers Hexagon in their upcoming universe with Austin St. John and JDF? No, I don't. I don't think so. I think, if anything, they're really going to go out on their own type of storytelling. I do hope at some particular point in time that Austin St. John and JDF aren't forgotten about, though, and do play some sort of element or have some sort of involvement going forward. I just don't know how big of an involvement they certainly would have, but no, they're going to do their own particulars own series. Will Grid Connection lead to another big Dino crossover, or will it have connections to Dino Fury? I think it could, regardless if maybe this episode was written prior to them having plans for Dino Fury. I really don't know, but it would not surprise me if we get into something like Dino Fury, only to come to find out that some things that we did see in Grid Connection or this, crossover arc having some sort of role or impact in Dino Fury. Even if it's just like a brief connection or a cameo, I would perfectly be okay with it. You also say, do you think Hasbro has plans to keep making kid-friendly content aside from the non-kid Power Ranger universe? That's a good question. A part of me kind of hopes so. Maybe they kind of look at maybe the animation side of things, maybe the route that they want to take for younger storytelling. I don't know. I think sometimes when it comes to the term animation, people automatically assume just kid-friendly. And I don't necessarily know if that's always the case. I don't want to say not kid-friendly, but like when you say animation, I hope people don't think like Peppa Pig, like just the really preschool type of animation, if you will, like that type of story level of storytelling, because animation can really tell any type of story it wants to any genre or age range of kids. You know what I mean? So I think it's important that we keep that open-minded. So I don't know what they plan on doing with animation. A part of me does hope that there is some lasting elements that do remain for the kids side of things, right? Because look, MCU, Star Wars, Star Trek, DC, right? They all have stuff for young adults, those of older audiences, but they still manage to have their side of things for kids. So I think Hasbro certainly will. But when it comes to Jonathan Entwistle, I think as far as the Power Ranger lore and history going forward is concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if it's more heavy non-kid projects. but still the sporadic kid projects here and there to still keep it all connected. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the new Rangers are young actors from Cobra Kai. That would be great. You know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these brand new actors are maybe from some of Jonathan Entwistle's previous series also. You know, we talked about it when we did our I'm Not Okay With It review. Wyatt Olaf, who plays one of the characters in here, he also was in the movie It as one of the younger kids. He was stellar in Jonathan Entwistle's show, so I would love to have him come back, maybe even be the future a Billy type character, if you will. I think that would be pretty cool. And Sophia Lillis, who was in It also, was in the Jonathan Entwistle series I'm Not Okay With This. Great actors, man. Great actors. Again, I feel like the blend of actors, like movie and TV, is blending so well that maybe back in the day, you would think to yourself, oh, movies, those movie stars, those actors would never do something along the lines of television shows. But now that TV is becoming more like mainstream and more streaming services and more production and budgets being put into creating these shows and content, I wouldn't be surprised if we, you know, the idea that we start now seeing these big movie actors going over to TV streaming makes perfect sense to me. So the fact that they managed, that Jonathan Entwistle was able to get these two stars that were in a big movie like It and had left great impressions. The fact that he was able to get them, I think, is really telling. And hopefully when we get something like Power Rangers, just the level of acting will certainly increase because maybe they're able to afford better actors and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. But thank you, Johnny, for all of your questions. I appreciate that. But I think other than that, you can read my actual one next week. Oh, you had another question? I'm trying to find it. This is from the 19th. For your Kara Major recorded. Okay, that was on the 19th. And then after that, I don't see anything else, AJ. But if I do find it, I'll go ahead and certainly let you know, man. So don't worry about that. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that's certainly going to go ahead and do it for us today. So thank you so much, everybody, for certainly joining us today. I know it was a packed episode. We certainly went a little bit longer than normal. But listen, we love having Power Rangers and Super Sentai discussions with you guys. And at this time right now, for the franchise, there are a lot of things moving in certain directions, and so we want to do our best to keep you guys updated and posted, but also pick your guys' brain and give our A+ opinions as always. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us here. If anything, we will be back next weekend, so certainly look forward to that. Again, Saturday noon Central Time, we go live every week, and of course we've got Toku Tuesday, and of course some other content throughout the week for you guys. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, guys, along with that bell notification. If you want to follow us on social media, you can go ahead and do so right here at A+ Opinions. Our main hub is going to be on our Facebook page. You can also reach out to us on Twitter. We're also on Instagram and Twitch for you gamers as well. But until next time, guys, do us a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And until next time, keep it A+. I'll talk to you later. Bye.